Got to get to the 14.
You got to chip on the edge with Ingram and have him come up on the inside. Some of these guys.
Allen fires it. It's a wide open. Remarkable. Touchdown. Buffalo. Davis again. Allen could try to make it a 3-point lead. Circling around at the 18. Now looks. Flings it back to the end zone. There's Diggs. Caught it for the 2. Down the middle. It's Hill in the open. Cuts it upfield. He might be gone. He is. Kansas City takes the lead with a minute to go. And yet there's still plenty of time and 3 timeouts for the Bills, for Josh Allen to go right back and answer again. Could we possibly have 3 lead changes inside the last 2 minutes of a divisional playoff game? No way. No way? Maybe way. From the 19 and 17 seconds. Down the middle to the end zone, and there it is! Touchdown number 4 on the night for Davis. Can't believe that defense got beaten up like that. So this here's Hill. There's a chance. Kicks.
They'll throw it right away, right now to someone in the middle.
Down the middle. Oh my goodness! It's going to be a 48-yard attempt. Hundreds of thousands around the planet. The kick is good. It's going to overtime. Looking to the end zone for the win. He caught it. Ball game. Chiefs to the championship game.
Somehow comes out there and shows the world, I'm still here. Andy Reid. Talking to the refs.
Got to get to the 14. You got to chip.
All right. Did the video freeze? Looks like it. Love that. Okay, here, I lost my mouse. There we go. Oh. Why is this hating me, Matt? There we go. Technical difficulties here on episode 1. But yes, welcome everyone to the first episode of RefBall Sports. We are your hosts. I'm Ryan, joined by my co-host Matt. I was gonna introduce you by Sir Hunks a lot, but you know, we don't introduce people by their usernames because you know we're not cringe. So, just to kind of get things started, first of all, how are you doing, Matt?
You know, I'm doing pretty well. I slept a lot today, so...
Yeah, I wish I could say the same. I did not sleep a lot today. So let's get into some introduction stuff, just because, you know, first episode and all that. So we're just gonna basically just share our favorite sports that we like to watch, favorite teams within those sports. Heck yeah, we're talking about sports ball, Jeremy. So I guess I'll go first. Favorite sports? I mean, NFL is probably my favorite. But I watch, I mean, American football, yeah. You get it. You get it. I'm a big Chiefs fan, if you can't tell. I'm also a Vikings fan, so yeah, Kirk Cousins and all that, yay. Oh, Matt's silent. Oh shit. Yeah, there we go. Matt is good now. Matt's good now. There you go.
Oh, that's good.
There we go.
I'm glad that I get to participate.
Sorry. That's Matt. Sorry, he was muted. So I also like watching baseball. I'm a Royals fan. College basketball, KU fan, I guess. And really, the only other sport that I watch is hockey. I like watching. Yeah, I'm trying to censor you.
Unbelievable.
I'm
Brother
also,
over here.
I'm also a fan of the St. Louis Blues in hockey, and also the Montreal Canadiens. So, yeah. What about you, Matt?
Yeah. So I mostly just watch the NFL. Like that's my bread and butter. That's where I feel most comfortable with. NFL really. Mainly a Chiefs fan. My number 2 team is a Seahawks fan, which is a whole can of worms right now.
Don't worry, we'll get into
We don't have to. That's fine.
that.
Yeah, and then I follow the Royals throughout the year.
When they're doing well.
Unfortunately, no, I don't follow them when they're doing well. I didn't really watch them when we won the championship a few years back, except for like the World Series
Yes,
and the playoff run.
same.
And then I started watching as soon as all the success was over. I used to watch the Royals as a kid, and back in I remember going to a game. It was back when we had Mike Sweeney and Carlos Beltran, and I can't tell you what game, what year, but we went. The Royals were up 16-4. It was the top of the 8th, and my mom said, "Hey, do you want to just go ahead and get out of here?" You know, normal thing. And
You were literally
home.
that ad on like the the Allstate commercial where it's like, do we want to leave in the third quarter?
Exactly. Yes. That's how it was. But we go home and we're watching the news and we find out the Royals lost like 18-16.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, I was the last Royals game I went to for like a number of years. But I enjoy them. I hope baseball gets back on track. It sounds like they made some progress today. So
yeah.
I'm excited to see how that goes.
So I went to a game last year for Royals, and it was actually a game where we won, and I got to witness a grand slam. So that was interesting. That was fun.
Oh my!
We were playing the Pirates, which is why we went, because we knew we were gonna win. Because the Pirates aren't really that good. But I also have a very funny story about the Royals. When I was like 8,
Oh, yeah?
My parents took me to my first Royals game, and it went into extra innings, and I called play-by-play the next, like the ending of the inning, because all we needed was like a walk-off run to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, all right, here's what's going to happen. Butler's going to step up to the plate. He's going to hit a single to right field. And then,
Okay.
I don't remember who came up next, but I was like, and then he's going to hit a double. Butler's going to get to third. And they're going to bunt it, and they're going to get it in for the score. Sure enough, play for play, those exact things happened. And I remember the guy behind me looking at me like, you need to get a lottery ticket tonight.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Gosh.
You know, I feel that baseball's a lot more fun to watch when you're actually at the game. Like I can't
Yeah.
watch baseball on TV. I just can't. It's too slow.
So, yeah, the other reason I started watching baseball at all and like following it is I was working at a bar, and the bar was dead pretty much constantly. And I'd come in about 1 p.m. and I would close the bar at like 10. And I did that during the day, like 4 days a week, and then like I get like one weekend shift. I still made pretty decent money, believe it or not. Like seeing almost no one, because just a lot of really well off people would go sit at the bar and throw money at me. But so I would sit there and I'd have plenty of time. Nothing's on TV except for the Royals games. So I would just go back there, turn on the Royals game, sit there and watch, make a drink every now and then. It was a pretty good time.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So, do we want to hop right into some
do we
NFL
have
stuff?
to?
So the first thing I see on the
salty about
docket
this first
here,
topic.
this first topic, Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. Matt, I'll let you open the floor here.
Yeah, so let's talk Russ. A lot of people were like, said this was an inevitable move. I mean, it's been well documented that he's been kind of frustrated with the franchise. Just watching actually watching the games, like Russ is still a damn good player, and a lot of he was oft injured last year. He messed up his hand very early on. Geno Smith came in and almost won them a couple games.
Dude, they reminded us that Geno Smith existed.
Yeah, that's the biggest crime that I thought the Seahawks were going to commit. And then the last 24 hours happened, and now I'm mixing it up a little bit. But,
yeah, when we were doing the rundown, Matt was trying to avoid talking about this.
Yeah, I there's a whole section in our little rundown that we had where it's called the Matt Seahawks rant, and I'm gonna try not to go completely off the rails here, but Russ did have a down year, but he was still pretty efficient. He was 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. For how little he played and playing injured, he was a good player still overall.
Yeah.
People said he took a step back, slowed down.
That kind of happened. That kind of happens. I mean, he's a 36-year-old mobile quarterback. That
he's
kind of
33.
happens. Is he only 33? Fuck.
Yeah, so he's 33 years old, and then they trade him. My second favorite team trades their franchise quarterback to an in-division rival of my favorite team, who one of my good friends who I stream with frequently, 6'6". He is a diehard Denver fan, and him and I have been talking all year about how the one thing that Denver needed was a QB, because they have an insanely talented wide receiver core. They've got a decent offensive line. Not a great one by any means, but a mobile quarterback like Russell Wilson can buy a little bit of extra time, the same way that our Lord and Savior Patrick Mahomes does, and create something magical on the field. And unfortunately, Russell Wilson, I think, is actually a perfect quarterback for that situation. I think he's going to have a lot of success there. It just sucks that he's guaranteed 2 losses a year. So,
my thoughts on it too is how much dead cap is he for the Seahawks right now? Isn't it 20 million?
Do you have it pulled up?
I do not. Let me pull up Twitter real quick. Adam Schefter, I need you.
Come on, Shefty. And I'll have Twitter up on my other monitor too, in case some crazy thing happens. But
because I remember seeing that Schefter posted something about it. There's the Carson Wentz one, which we'll get to a little bit in a second.
Yeah, looks like nothing's really happened since. That's another whole can of worms. But while you're looking at that, I also want to talk about the other big move. We can definitely talk about Russell Wilson more, but the biggest thing for me is, as a Seahawks fan, the timing of these moves. They released Bobby Wagner, which again, another he's an aging player. If I remember correctly, he and Russell Wilson have not played a snap in the have not played their first game was the same and their last game was the same for the same team. Robbie Wagner has been a very productive player. He had 170 sacks last year, which is not sacks, sorry, excuse me, tackles. 170 tackles last year, which is an insane number. He's a very talented. He's going to get a huge market. Yeah. I wouldn't mind if the Chiefs, went ahead and took a look at him.
So here, let me pull up the tweet here real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
We go. Yeah, so it says right here, cap ramifications for Russell Wilson was to count $37 million in 2022. Seahawks save $11 million, but take on $26 million in dead cap. Oof.
Yeah, I think it's more so trying to get some value out of him, thinking he's not going to re-sign. The Seahawks are definitely especially again with the Bobby Wagner situation, they're going through a rebuild right now. There's no doubt about it.
For sure.
But the thing that sucks is that they have young players like DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett's not so young anymore, but
he's getting up there in his age.
Yeah, they're both still very productive players, and the defense has some young talent, but they still need resources. And I wouldn't hate. This is pretty much just me going further into the Matt Seahawks rant. A year ago, 2 years ago, they trade for Jamal Adams, making the highest paid safety.
Which
they
at the
spend
time
2
wasn't
first-round
a
draft
bad
picks.
pick. Like at the time, it wasn't a bad trade.
No, and like he's a very talented player. This is the Seahawks. Everyone thought were going, up, and they're like, oh, this is a move to like get back to like a Legion of Boom, like Cam Chancellor type player, where he's an impact player just running all around the field. And then like he's been good. Don't get me wrong. He's been a productive player when healthy. He's had some injuries last year, especially.
Yeah.
But like I feel that this is a hard reset on Seattle.
Yeah.
Which is a little jarring, considering how recently they were considering that they were going to be a competitive franchise.
I just noticed something. The Seahawks, when they brought in Jamal Adams, have a lot of parallels to the Packers of last year. Essentially, when they brought in Jamal Adams, everyone thought that was going to be like their all-in year. Like, we're going to a Super Bowl, which is pretty much what the Packers thought last year. And they both got bounced in the divisional round.
Yeah. It's going to be a tough few years being a Seahawks fan, simply because...
But at least you got Pete Carroll still, so...
Yeah, and a lot of people are like, Pete Carroll needs to retire. Pete Carroll's old. I'm not on that train yet. I another bad year, I could, consider it. But,
yeah.
I mean, I think he's still the guy, I think he can still bring my backup franchise.
I think he still has a few years left in him. I do agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do we want to move on to our next big ticket item here, Matt?
Yeah. Before it devolves completely for me, we can
before Matt starts
gears.
going into a fit of rage. So our next item on the docket here. Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams coming back to the Packers for next season. So Aaron Rodgers landed, a 4-year, $200 million contract? And Davante Adams was tagged?
So that's what's reported with Aaron Rodgers.
Let me see if Shefty has mentioned anything on his contract.
Yeah, it was reported initially that he was making, it was going to be like a $50 million a year average. That number has not been confirmed, and Aaron Rodgers came out and said that's not the deal, that he hasn't signed a deal yet.
Gotcha.
That's not the deal he's looking at.
Did he say that on Pat McAfee or something?
Yeah, he also tweeted it out.
I don't follow his Twitter.
Yeah. It just gets retweeted so many times.
It's interesting that Schefter didn't retweet that. Interesting,
yeah.
So I guess the elephant in the room needs to be addressed there for the Packers. I mean, great, you're bringing back Rodgers and all that, but aren't you still $40 million in cap hell? Like,
yeah,
you're just kicking the can down the road here. Like, you're gonna be in the same situation as the Saints, where you're gonna be like $90 million under the cap at some point.
Yeah, so I haven't played with the cap numbers for them yet. In terms of like using over the cap, I'm curious because they're supposed to release Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, which, dude, if the Chiefs could pick up Zadarius Smith,
that solves our pass rush issue right there. They save a good amount by making that move.
Dang, I did not realize...
They have a lot of work to do.
I did not realize that Aaron Rodgers is 39 this year.
Yes. Yeah, and it's supposedly he's signing like a 4-year deal.
He's gonna be
sees the deal.
No, I think it's gonna be a Tom Brady situation where he doesn't see out the end of his career or the end of his contract.
And that was the question too for a long time that we wondered is, does Aaron Rodgers even want to play football?
Yeah.
He's been flirting more with like Jeopardy and
Yeah.
other opportunities and being like a TV personality outside of that world. So it's fascinating to think, cat goes by in the background there a second ago. It's fascinating to think about, what he's actually interested in.
Yeah. I mean,
And how long term.
If I can say one thing about Aaron Rodgers, it's I know his priorities. It's going on a spiritual journey through weird remedies.
Oh my. Oh my god.
We're gonna have to suffer through 4 more years of him going on Pat McAfee talking about his weird health routines.
Oh gosh. Yeah. The other part with Rodgers there is it's the Jordan Love question.
Yeah.
It's does he get traded? Because Jordan Love is coming up toward the end of his deal.
Yeah, I mean, they could give him a 5th-year extension, but I don't think they're going to, because, I mean, what's the point of signing a backup if you've got Aaron Rodgers for 4 years, potentially? Like...
I mean, the only thing you can do is hope that he's cool sitting and waiting. But I know that Jordan Love, I mean, I guess I don't know, but I'm sure that he wants an opportunity to play football. That's, why he plays football. So... this 4-year deal, I think, kind of signals the end of the Jordan Love, unless he thinks the Jordan Love experiment, I think, is over, unless he thinks that he can wait it out and that Aaron Rodgers, because, I mean, how old Jordan Love right now is what? 23, so like 4 years from now, 27, that you want to try to get your first starting opportunity then.
And you're having to talk about a contract extension at that point then, too.
And at this point, what does Jordan Love prove to anyone? The only people who've really seen him is people inside the building, and then one really bad performance against our very Chiefs.
Yeah.
Which, let's be honest here, I blame a lot of that on Matt LaFleur.
Hey, we got
not
to
setting
see
him
him
up for success.
We got to see him in week 18 against the Lions, though, for a little bit.
Yeah, very briefly, and I mean, I wouldn't say anyone was inspired by that either.
No, no.
And it was the Lions.
Yeah, it was the Lions. Oh man, yeah. I mean, I kind of had a feeling that, as soon as I heard the news that Aaron Rodgers was coming back, I had a feeling that Davante Adams would be tagged, because the whole offseason Rodgers had been saying, I'm only coming back if Davante's back. I don't want to be a part of a rebuild. So, I knew that they were going to try and work something out. So, I mean, they franchise tagged Davante Adams. He's well worth it. He's well worth the money that he'll be owed. Which, how much money is he going to be owed on the franchise tag?
Oh, I just had it up.
Wide receiver franchise tag.
The early calculation is $20 million, which, like, for a year of Davante Adams services isn't the worst thing, because he's going to be the highest paid. So
yeah, and I mean Davante Adams, I think he deserves that money. Like, he is one of the best.
Absolutely,
he's one of the best receivers in the league, hands down.
I'd argue he is the best, just in terms of just sheer production, versatility.
Yeah.
Like, intermediate routes, deep routes.
No, he's a do-it-all kind of a guy.
And then just absolutely mossing people.
For real, like,
old school.
There's so many talented wide receivers. Like, there's a lot of talented wide receivers out there right now, like Davante Adams, Justin Jefferson, all sorts of really amazing guys.
I'm gonna say that's part of the deal, isn't it? That got Russell Wilson into Denver, is how many wide receivers they even have on their team.
Yeah, because
it's currently it's like an arms race.
They've got
is how I see the NFL, because
they still have Tim Patrick and Jerry Jeudy, right? Because didn't they just re-sign them?
Hi. Yeah, they re-signed Tim Patrick. My cat eats wants to make an appearance. They re-signed Tim Patrick. They re-signed. They signed Courtland Sutton not that long ago.
Yeah, that's what it was. Courtland Sutton. Yeah.
Sutton, yeah. I mean, when Tim Patrick is your number 3 wide receiver, you're in a good spot.
Yeah.
And it really sucks as part of that trade. They lost Noah Fant because he was really coming into his own.
Yeah, he was. He was looking good. And I hate to say that as a Chiefs fan.
But now he's going to be catching... Yeah, and now he's going to be sitting there
catching balls
watching balls sail over his head from Drew Lock next year. So
it's going to be Geno Smith.
Some things never change.
It'll be Geno Smith, please.
Probably, honestly. It's not that I don't have faith in Drew Lock to like develop, but he
hasn't given a lot of inspiration.
I know, he doesn't instill confidence.
Yeah. Alrighty, moving on from the Aaron Rodgers and the Packers news. The big one that came out today, the one that I have pulled up here, let me pull it up. Carson Wentz traded to the Washington Commanders.
Ooh.
Interesting. The fact that they got 2 third-round picks for Carson Wentz should really just say how his production has declined. Like, it's been
Drew,
rough.
How's it going?
Like,
yeah,
I've always been a fan of Carson Wentz because I like an underdog story. You know, he came from was it North Dakota State or South Dakota State? It was one of the two, but you know, I like it. I like it because you know he's from a smaller university, and he was a really talented quarterback, and he did well in Philly. But the injuries, man, they screwed him up. And he just looks like a shell of his former self out there.
Yeah, he doesn't look like the Carson Wentz that Indianapolis traded a first-round pick and a second-round pick for.
Yeah, Philly's looking real good for that trade right now.
Yeah, which Philly has a number of problems of their own that we're not even going to have time today to even lightly touch on, because that's a whole mess on its own. I don't know if you saw the report earlier, but Russell Wilson apparently was one of the people who offered a really good package for Russell was the Eagles.
Philly? Interesting. They're giving up on Jalen already?
I mean, I thought that's what the Gardner Minshew trade meant, but poor guy. We'll get into that some other day.
Yeah.
But Russell Wilson refused. The teams agreed, but Russell Wilson wouldn't waive his clause for Philadelphia.
Understandable. I mean, what wide receivers does Philly have?
They got Jalen. No, Waddle is.
They got Jalen Reagor.
DeVonta Smith. That's who I was actually thinking of, unfortunately, for Philadelphia. They drafted DeVonta Smith, who definitely flashed. He almost had 1,000 yards. I didn't even.
He was decent, but you just didn't hear much about DeVonta Smith this season. Like, it was always overshadowed by Jamar Chase and all the other big names out there.
I mean, it was a hell of a wide receiver class last year.
Yeah,
and it's looking like a hell of a one this year that I'm sure we'll get into as we move closer to the draft.
I'm sure we'll draft another McCole Hardman.
Yeah,
we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Boy goes fast. That's all that matters.
But yeah, what do you think? What do you think this means for the Commanders? Do you think this is putting a Band-Aid on a complete dumpster fire of a team? Do you think this is good for the team?
I think this is a marketing opportunity for them to try to get people to say the word Commanders more, to try to normalize it.
Yeah.
No, I think this is a desperation move from a very sorry franchise that is not going anywhere at the moment.
Yeah, no kidding.
And they are trying to sell some tickets next year. And apparently Taylor Heineke just isn't cutting it. But this is a question I saw raised on Twitter, and I'm going to pose this to you.
Okay.
I don't know how much Washington football you watched last year, or
a decent amount.
I try to avoid it. I try to avoid it.
I watch it when it's on.
But in the little that I watched, and what I've seen of Carson Wentz last year, how much better is Carson Wentz actually than Taylor Heineke?
Ooh. You know,
And is that potentially a second and a third? Is that the worth
it's
to anyone?
it's interesting because I'm going to compare the two quarterbacks here, right? So Taylor Heineke, I mean, he's really only got like necessarily one good receiving threat in Terry McLaurin.
Scary Terry.
Whereas Carson Wentz last year, I mean, he had options and he had a running game, but he still couldn't succeed. So I don't know. I think the biggest problem with Heineke was he just didn't really have an offensive line and weapons to throw to. I think Heineke's actually a better quarterback. I know, hot take, but I think Heineke's actually a slightly better quarterback than Carson Wentz at this point.
Yeah. I think with all the injuries and everything, obviously prime Carson Wentz, which I mean, it's really sad for us to say.
Because I do like
He's
Carson.
only 29 years old, but
yeah, he has gone the way of the Andrew Luck, screwed by injuries.
he's gone the way of RG3.
Yeah.
Except RG3, I think, legitimately could have been one of the best quarterbacks. Like,
Yeah,
he could have been definitely like up there in terms of like how we think of him with like Michael Vick and like Lamar Jackson now. Obviously, Lamar Jackson has some issues, but which that's a whole contract situation we can get into at some point. Not today probably, but
yeah, for sure.
I think he could have been up there, but just the double ACL tear, you can't come back from that.
Yeah, no, I mean, but we did get to see Tyler Huntley, and Tyler Huntley looked pretty good.
Yeah, that was actually an incredible story. I saw earlier today. I believe they tagged him, not with like the franchise tag.
Oh, did they? Good for him.
Yeah, they're keeping him around for another year.
Well deserved. I mean, he played his heart out in a lot of those games.
Yeah, he absolutely like did his best to do that.
I mean,
but now
I think he gets a bad, like, everyone kind of mocks Tyler Huntley because they're like, oh, he's Lamar Jackson 2.0. Like, he's I'm Lamar Jackson number 2. But
I mean, listen,
legitimately, he's a solid quarterback.
He is, and he's proven that so far, like in a decent amount of action this year because Lamar Jackson couldn't stay on the field.
He was a starter for what, like 4 or 5 games this year due to the injury?
Yeah. And Tyler Huntley, I think, like, deserved enough that, like, I'm not saying that he's anywhere close to what Lamar Jackson is.
Right.
But, I mean, if I'm the Baltimore Ravens,
you feel good about your backup situation.
You feel really good about your backup situation, and you want to have a guy with a somewhat similar skill set.
Yeah.
As your main guy to back him up. That's why we had
because you don't have to have a ton of changes to your offense
himself. Exactly.
Yeah.
You want them to be able to execute the offense and not have to make huge changes to it just because your number one guy went down.
Yeah.
This is still your system. Everyone else, that's the thing that people don't always understand about like throwing stuff out, is everyone else is so used to the system the way it's working.
Exactly.
And if you, as soon as you throw that out, like everyone else has to adjust to one person. It's not ideal.
Matt Moore, who?
Rest in peace.
Speaking of Matt Moore, oh, sorry. Do you got something?
I had one more thing I wanted to bring up.
Go for it.
Just about the Colts specifically.
Yeah.
First of all, they announced today that Eric Fisher is going to test free agency. Which
I did see that.
Get paid king. He won't get paid, but get paid king.
Maybe the Chiefs will re-sign him.
I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But the main thing I want to talk about is their quarterback situation. There's a lot of interest by them, reportedly, depending on how Garoppolo turns up, that they might take some of those picks and flip them for a Garoppolo or something that'll fit them, because their roster's pretty good at the moment. And
yeah,
Garoppolo Garoppolo is one of those QBs that has proven that he works pretty well in a run first offense.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like, I'm gonna pose a question to you. Do you think Jimmy Garoppolo was given too much flack for this season, or do you think that, do you think he outplayed what he was perceived as by, like, the media and all that?
I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a above average quarterback who came into a season where a team had already spent very, very high draft capital to replace him.
Yeah.
And he came out and he showed that he still has a lot left in the tank. They made a deep playoff run. They made it to the championship game.
As basically an afterthought.
Yeah.
And God bless the 49ers for ending the Cowboys. You have my thanks for that.
Shout out. Shout out to the Cowboys, man. Going to hell, that is.
I was about to say, you're shouting out the Cowboys?
But yeah, so supposedly the Colts are interested in Jimmy Garoppolo, and honestly, I think that's a pretty good fit.
Yeah, it wouldn't
they've
be
got a young, hungry defense, a talented young running back.
Plus, I was about to say, Jonathan Taylor, that would complement Garoppolo's skills, I think, very well.
Yeah. I think he'd translate very well. If not, maybe give old Minshew a call.
Maybe. And if neither of those options, you can always draft Carson Strong in the draft.
Yeah. God, this draft.
It's not a quarterback draft.
So this move exactly, I think, underscores how bad this QB draft is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Where Washington's like making panic moves because they need to at least do okay this year, both for like the general manager's job as well as Ron Rivera. I love Riverboat Ron, but it's been a struggle, and his teams have dealt with injuries and everything. But
yeah. Well, shall we get into the very long and probably overinflated topics?
Yes, yeah.
The Kansas City
everything
Chiefs.
Else is
Sorry, go ahead.
Everything else has been like just kind of like news roundup.
Yeah.
This is the in-depth stuff. This is the
meat and potatoes of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
We're going into the Chiefs season, the 2021 Kansas City Chiefs review of this year. So, starting it off, we're gonna look at the draft grade. So, up on the first docket here, we got Orlando Brown, who we traded our first round pick last year for to the Baltimore Ravens and brought in a pretty crucial part of the offensive line.
I think
Orlando
Brown, I count him as part of our draft class.
Yeah.
Some people don't. I do.
I would count
ultimately,
it too.
Yeah. Ultimately, like in terms of like the value shift between, because there was a lot of picks swapped in that deal. He ended up being traded for a second round pick, which in my opinion is a pretty good value to get a franchise left tackle.
Yeah.
Now he struggled early. He came from a run first system in Baltimore, and so he got beat on the outside a lot. He's not as athletic as, say, Eric Fisher was. For all the crap that we gave Eric Fisher for a long time, he is one of the more athletic tackles in the league, and
he was just a slow starter, I think, to his career, and that's why he got so much hate.
Yeah, and we're sporting real hard, Jeremy. We're deep in it.
Yeah, we do be sporting it.
Yeah. But I think Orlando Brown had a slow start to the year. People got worried, and it didn't help that he was not playing well at the same time that the Chiefs were having a losing record.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year.
To be honest, our whole offensive line was kind of struggling during that time.
Yeah, we really Joe Thuney looked like a bad pickup at the time. The right side, Lucas Niang looked like a turnstile.
Yeah.
But like from the very beginning, and we're gonna get more into these two later because they're both rookies, and so as we go through it, we're gonna get into it. But there were two shining stars on the O line, pretty much all year. But an interesting part of the Orlando Brown situation is the contract. He is currently under the tag for $16 million, I think. They're wanting to get a new deal done before the year kicks in, so that we can get a new contract, and that number will come down a little bit, give us a little bit more wiggle room. But the holdup right now is he doesn't have an agent.
Yeah. He's doing it all solo style there.
Yeah. So he's trying to figure out if he wants an agent or if he thinks he can negotiate it himself. Richard Sherman proved that you can very, very successfully negotiate without an agent.
No kidding.
And now I think I heard that Richard Sherman pled guilty to like 2 felonies, but we don't need to go into that. The contract though was good that he set up back with the 49ers. So
yeah, yeah, I agree. I think come next year, off of his franchise tag, if the Chiefs do decide to keep him, he's gonna get a lot of money. Like, he's gonna be one of the most sought after tackles. Even if he goes into free agency, there's going to be bidding wars galore on Brown because he's proven that he can succeed in multiple different systems.
Yeah, I think he is a very vital piece, and I have no doubt in my mind that the Brinks truck is going to be backed up into his yard as we pay him whatever he wants. That's just kind of leverage you lose when you trade a first-round pick for someone.
Yeah,
so.
It is. Up next, we got our lovely boy here.
Oh, Nicky B.
Nick Bolton. Was he second or third round? I forget.
He was a second-round pick. I put these in order of.
Oh, they were in order?
When
Okay,
they were
okay.
picked.
He, kind of similar to Orlando Brown, had a little bit of a slow start, but, I mean, he wasn't a starting linebacker right out of the gate. We kind of just put him in more situational roles. But near the end there, when he started to help out, was it Hitchens who got injured?
Hitchens got a little banged up. Willie Gay was out for a couple weeks.
As I say, Bolton really stepped up during those couple weeks there, and he got his first career touchdown against the Denver Broncos. So hey, there you go.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, beautiful man.
And it was against his former quarterback at Missouri too, so even better.
So Nick Bolton was a pick. I was working that night, walking around the bar, and I look up and the Chiefs are on the board and they draft Nick Bolton, and he was a guy that I was not thrilled to see initially. I know he's a local talent, and by local I mean he went to Missouri. He's not from around here, but. And he's kind of limited in his skill set. And with those type of guys, he's not ridiculously fast, not, super. His game IQ was kind of in question going into the year. And I think that's why you also saw as the year went on, instead of him just going with his first read, he started to read plays a little bit. And
yeah.
Just do a better and better job. And he was absolutely worth it. Oh God, Reed's here.
Yep, Reed's here. I just saw that too.
Reed, we already talked about it.
Yeah, that was one of our
just 2 years of control.
Don't worry, if you watch the VOD back, you can see Matt's soul leave his body.
Yeah, Reed, my number 2 team is the Seahawks. So it was a move that I am less than thrilled about.
The Broncos definitely won the trade there.
Yeah. I hate to admit it, but yes.
Seattle is now entered a full-on rebuild.
The only thing that sucks for the Broncos is that it's a 2-year deal that he has. He's definitely going to want to renegotiate here soon.
But the Broncos have cap space, so...
They do have cap space right now. They do. You guys are missing some key cornerbacks that are going into free agency right now.
They still have Pat
Bryce
Surtain. They're
Callahan.
fine.
Yeah, you have Bryce Callahan. You have
We'll get into that a little bit more later.
his
on.
name. Yeah, we'll get into it more. But yeah, you guys have like about 10 million to spare right now. I think you could bring in Vaughn. I think you could bring in a few people.
See, I think
shore up some
Vaughn
spots.
will come back. I really do. I think Vaughn will come back for Denver.
Last reported though, he is gonna try to negotiate with the Rams first, and then he'll
Okay.
probably
Interesting.
if he doesn't fit into the Rams' very messy cap situation, then he'll probably be a Bronco.
Yeah. So, Matt, moving on to our third rookie, my boy, offensive center Creed Humphrey.
God bless him.
What a year he had. He was one of the best offensive linemen this season in the AFC. He was a damn good player.
There's a reason for most of the year. If you go to my Twitter at Sir Hunksalot,
Just
you would have
casually
seen-
plugging your Twitter.
of course. There's a reason for most of the year, though. My bio said Creed Humphrey is the offensive rookie of the year. Because if the world were fair, if the world were just, he would be.
Yeah.
He is the highest rated rookie in PFF history.
I was going to say, I remember seeing a PFF that he was the number one the number one offensive lineman in the rookie draft class this year.
Yes. No, beyond that. So this year he
wasn't
was the
he
highest
also-
rated rookie in general, either side of the ball.
Yeah.
He is the highest rated rookie of the last 15 years. The only one who got really close to him was Odell Beckham in his rookie year, which we all remember.
The only thing that I will say that I don't like about Creed Humphrey is this. Sooners. As a Jayhawks fan, I cringe at the sight, but that's neither here nor there.
My boss is
Sir Plugs a lot.
You're damn right. Right. Also, don't forget to join me on Twitch. Most Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we're streaming Elden Ring right now. No,
It's Sir Hunks a lot on Twitch.
don't forget to check out KIGP as well. They're pretty cool too.
Oh yeah, their podcast is starting here in 10 minutes.
Yeah. You guys get out of here. You guys got your own shit to host.
We'll stop by after this is done.
But overall, yeah, I'm sure we'll raid.
Yeah.
So, but Creed Humphrey would have been the steal of the draft, in my opinion, in the second round.
Personally, I think he was the steal of the draft in the third, easily. Because the way he performed this year, he could have very easily been a first round pick.
They did a recent redraft of last year. I think it'd be fun to go over that at some point.
Yeah, we could definitely cover that. When we're doing mock drafts and stuff like that, we could definitely go over something like that.
But they had Creed Humphrey going at number 11.
I could see it. He's absolutely worth that.
And we'll get to him in a little bit, but do you know who was picked number 12? Trey Smith.
I was about to say Trey Smith, wasn't it?
Yep. But we'll get more into that as well here in a bit. But let's keep going down the line.
Yeah, here I'll do this. I'll let you call out our fourth round pick.
Yes. With the 100 and somethingth pick of the NFL draft, the Kansas City Chiefs selected Joshua Kando.
This boy.
He played okay early on as a rotational piece, which was always expected. He was a developmental guy. Excuse me. He's always a developmental guy. And then he got injured kind of early on, went on IR. I don't think he ever came off IR, if I remember correctly.
No, he finished the season on the IR.
Yeah, so he he was a fourth round pick. Pardon me. I am a liar. We didn't have a third round pick last year. But Joshua Kando, like, he's someone that we don't have high expectations for. He certainly is one of those high ceiling, high floor players who just has a pretty good skill set, and you just kind of hope that after a few years he develops into a good rotational pass rusher.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot to say on Joshua Kando, other than, he's a decent special teams player. I need more to see on him before I can really make any judgments on him.
Yeah, he's just a guy that, like, didn't get on the field much, got hurt. Like, as he was starting to get any amount of playing time, he really got hurt.
Yeah.
And never came back. So he's a wait and see for sure.
Now moving on to, what was it, 5th round or 6th round?
Our next guy, Noah Gray, was a 5th round pick. I'll go ahead and get him pulled up on my end here. Noah Gray was a 5th round pick. Pick 162. He didn't do a ton. If, like, just being honest.
I'm gonna give you some little insight here. When we picked up Noah Gray, I was like, why? Like, I didn't really see tight end as a huge need for us at the moment. Like, I was like, why are we wasting a draft pick on this when we could be spending it on a defensive player? So that was my thought when we drafted Noah Gray. He wasn't terrible, but he just wasn't. Yeah. He was kind of a non-factor.
He showed flashes. I think, as far as number 2 tight end, the person we all got most excited for
Blake Bell.
Was our boy Jody Fortson.
I was a Blake Bell stand the entire way.
I love Blake Bell as well. Our tight end room was stacked last year. Let's not kid ourselves.
Man, yeah.
But Noah Gray, he's got plenty of time to develop into something.
Yeah.
They kind of, my understanding is they kind of wanted to groom him. As a number 2 guy,
that's what it's going to be.
Who could potentially, in a few years when Kelsey starts slowing down, maybe his contract gets too much. Maybe he just calls it quits.
He will probably be a Travis Kelsey, because if you remember, Travis Kelsey, his rookie season, was not a starter. He was a number 2.
His rookie season, he got injured pretty quickly.
Yeah, but he wasn't a starter. I do know that.
Yeah, and like even the second season, he was sitting behind.
We had
Anthony Fasano.
I was about to say Fasano, wasn't it? Oh God.
That's a name. So I have a fun habit where sometimes I like to look up old Chiefs players and just see whatever happened to them, because you just never hear their name again.
Lynn Elliott.
And Fasano definitely didn't do much after.
Every single Chiefs fans from like the 80s and 90s there just flipped me off by saying Lynn Elliott.
Ooh.
One of the best kickers in the entire NFL, Lynn Elliott, everyone's favorite. He only shanked away multiple playoff games.
Yeah, no big deal. I'll never forget Anthony Fasano. Very, very brief Anthony Fasano tangent, because I randomly referenced him already. And now I have decided to speak on the matter. I will never forget. It was 2014, I think it was. It was the year we didn't have a wide receiver score a touchdown.
Was it 2014?
And then I think it was 2014. Alex Smith drops back to pass. Dwayne Bowe is on a streak.
Oh, that was
not on a streak, on a slant route.
That would have been 2015.
A slant route against the Jets. He throws a pass. It gets deflected at the line. Anthony Fasano is sitting on his ass. It lands in his lap. He scores a touchdown.
I remember that play.
That really underscored how bad that the wide receiver room was that year.
Oh, God, Dwayne Bowe. Oh.
The other part of that year is week 17, toward the end. Dwayne Bowe is running. He's about to score a touchdown. Gets it knocked out of his hands at the at the half-yard line, and Travis Kelce recovers it for a touchdown.
Dwayne Bowe, he could not
keeping
hold on
it
to a
in
football.
God, that if we ever do like a worst contracts of all time, I want to talk about his
Dwayne
Cleveland
Bowe.
contract. His Cleveland contract is the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, didn't
But
he start like 2 games in Cleveland?
Yeah,
it was terrible.
But we can continue with the draft talk.
Yeah.
Noah Gray, kind of a mixed bag.
Definitely.
And,
Give him a couple more years. I agree. I watch. I'm sure we both watch Urinating Tree.
mm-hmm.
When he did his revisiting the 2015 and the 2016 draft class, I agree with him. 5 years is really. That's the peak of like figuring out if a player is a boom, bust, or kind of middle of the road. Because it's after their rookie contracts are up,
and that's also when teams decide how much they're worth.
Yeah. So moving on to our next player, this boy, Mr. Cornell Powell. Where was he on the football field?
As well. That's a good question. He wasn't. You might have recognized him on the practice squad.
Yep.
He might have been. I think he was active for like not active, but on the roster for like 1 week last year.
He might have taken
and
a
then
couple
was
special
instantly
teams.
demoted again. But he was a guy that going into the year I was kind of excited for, kind of a bigger framed guy, But from the reports that we got, he didn't really learn the playbook early on, didn't really show a whole lot in camp, and you just kind of hope that, something clicks for him eventually, and he at least become a rotating contributor. But he's not been much to write home about so far. Again, wait and see on him.
And now you ready for Mr. Steele of the draft?
Yeah, there he is. Here he comes.
Look at this boy.
The best pick, I think, in my lifetime that the Chiefs have made, aside from Patrick Mahomes.
What was he? Was he a 7th round?
He was a 6th round pick.
6th round. I didn't keep much on the draft last year.
That's fair. And Trey Smith, that's the fun thing about Trey Smith, is that he was originally, before his medical issues, expected to be a 1st round pick. Like a very highly coveted guard. And then he was dealing with blood clot issues. And he couldn't travel with the team a whole lot. He pretty much was just sick for an entire year. Took a long time to recover. But
He's
then
nice battle scar here though.
Yeah, he stayed through his senior year, got his draft backed up. A lot of teams took him off the draft board entirely. But the Chiefs, luckily, they did more research into him, realized, hey, his blood clots weren't an issue his senior year. He's been medically cleared. They did their own examination on him, and that's what good programs do. They find guys like him that have a concern.
He was definitely a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, you get to the bottom of it, and he was the 2nd best lineman on our team as a rookie,
and definitely a top
behind
5.
another rookie.
I was going to say definitely a top 5 offensive lineman in the draft period.
Yeah, no, and to have a draft where you don't use a 1st round pick, in the draft itself, for a lineman, and you get 2 starters out of it.
That's a
damn good year. We with 3 picks, we rebuilt our entire offensive line. Here's hoping that Lucas Dieng develops more on the other side. But, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is going to have so much time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe we almost forgot that.
I just thought about it. But yeah, no, Trey Smith, absolutely. An absolute steal of the draft. I agree. So, moving on, do we want to talk about our next little segment of it? Young players who stepped up big for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, boy. it was a big year for a lot of guys.
Our first boy on the docket here is the Big 5-0. Willie Gay. Had a bit of a, kind of an up and down rookie season. He showed flashes.
For sure.
This year, though, definite improvement. He looked like a full-time starter out there.
Absolutely. He showed that he's very good with the defending the pass. He's athletic enough to meet people out in the flats, and you saw he was injured for a few weeks, and one of those games was against the Chargers, and with backs like Austin Eckler leaking out of the backfield and just grabbing the ball and just taking it.
You could definitely tell the emergence and just the presence that he has to stop those runs, and those little flat plays as well. That for some reason the Chiefs can never cover.
Yeah, that's been an issue I think as long as I've watched the Chiefs. And so,
it's been an issue for a long time.
Having a guy like Willie Gay out there who's fast enough reminds me a lot of like a Derek Johnson.
I was just about to say that he reminds me a lot of a Derek Johnson,
where he, like Derek Johnson's the best middle linebacker that played during my lifetime.
Yeah, I'll say like, if you're talking best Chiefs linebackers, I mean Derek Thomas, duh, but Derek Johnson, I'd probably say Derek Johnson's number 2. Like, dude was a stud, and I think Willie Gay is making his case for potentially being a number 3 in team history, maybe even pushing Derek Johnson if he continues to develop like this.
Absolutely. If he makes the same jump that he did from last year to this year,
it'll be huge.
From this year to next year, like he's going to be up there with like the Darius Leonards in terms of like, just disrupting the passing game.
He'll be a Bobby Wagner, Fred Warner kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And our other guy that we almost forgot to include,
I included him down below. In the free agents category, which this segment will tell you how we feel his contract should be handled. But our boy, the Pringle Man himself.
I'm still upset that he never got a Pringles sponsorship. I mean, come on, it writes.
He did.
It writes. Oh, he did.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. Oh,
that's
awesome. That's awesome.
he doesn't like. He is doing like promotions on his Twitter.
Oh, on his Twitter. Okay, that would explain it. I don't go on Twitter all that often. But
yeah,
Byron Pringle, kind of came in not necessarily as a slot, but kind of as a slot receiver this year.
Yeah,
and kind of like the Chiefs this year, started the season a bit shaky. Had some drop issues, but as the season progressed, he started to really put things together and became a reliable player. On those short to medium passing routes, he was a dangerous threat.
Yeah, he is one of those players. He's been in the league for a few years now. I try to always remember to pull these guys up so that I look smarter while I'm talking. But he came into the league 2018, so he's been there for a bit. Been with the team the whole time, just been working his ass off. Eventually got on the 53-man roster, got waived, came back. But he's a local guy, went to K-State.
Yep.
And you just root for him. You want him to do well, and so he has shown nothing but heart and a willingness to work, which is why, especially toward the end of this last year, compared to Demarcus Robinson and McCole Hardman, he was starting to get more looks.
Yeah, and I think that's true too, because look at his postseason. Okay, like I'm gonna pull up his postseason stats here. Here, let me do this real quick. Byron Pringles postseason stats. So in the postseason, he put up 188 yards. Hang on. Actually, Byron Pringle stats. Playoffs. Okay. So total, just last season alone, he had 18 catches for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns, averaging 1 touchdown per game in the postseason. Pretty solid.
It's pretty damn good. That's a contributor. That's something you can't do without.
I mean, sure, you might look at that 121 yards and be like, well, that could be higher. Sure. But he proved to be a red zone threat, which is very dangerous to have. If you can get open in the end zone and make a play, you make a play. Because two of those touchdowns came against the Steelers.
Which, like, you know, I was at that game, and don't get me wrong, it ended up being an absolute, you know, boat race.
Curb stomp.
By the end of it. But there was a quarter and a half where we were sitting there butts clenched.
Yeah, we were terrified that we were going to lose
came
to
to play.
Steelers. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I like Byron Pringle. I think he's a solid receiving option. I would love to see us bring him back.
Absolutely, yeah, and we'll get more into like
Yeah.
who we want back and that stuff later. But he's definitely a guy that I know is at the top of my list. I wish they would have figured something out with him before we get to free agency. I know that they're not necessarily intending.
At the same time, too, like if a team's willing to give him, you know, a good amount of money and a starting position, I will root for him on the sideline because he deserves it. He's worked hard to get here.
Yeah, he's a guy that if someone offers him the bag, like, take it, man.
Yeah,
absolutely,
absolutely.
You've earned it. There's another guy that I think is going to get a bag coming from our team, young guy that we'll get into later, who I just have a bad feeling about in terms of like who is going to want him. But let's go to some bad stuff.
Yes.
The section in our notes is
Here, I'll pull
just called the Mecole problem. Do you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, so I, like quite a few Chiefs fans, I imagine, the first half of the season probably wanted to see Mecole Hardman benched. He did not look good the first half of the season. Like, and even later in the season, he struggled with consistency a lot this season. Like, some games, it would look like, oh, he looks like a Tyreek Hill. Like, yeah, this is why we drafted him. And then there's some games that are just like, has he played football? Like, it's just, it was aggravating to watch because, you know, 1 week, he looks amazing against the Vegas Raiders. He'll put up amazing stats. The following week against the Chargers, nothing. Like, he just falls flat on his face. And it's frustrating to see because I think he has tremendous talent. Like, he has a talent of insane speed. He struggles with catching the ball.
Yeah. I think you and I have talked about this a bit. There are just some guys that come in the league that have incredible speed, and it's something we've been worried about with this draft class, is that they come in with incredible speed and it blows everyone away, all the teams away, and then they get on the field and it doesn't translate because...
And who is the example that we brought up?
John Ross.
The good old Bengals wide receiver, John Ross.
John Ross is, I think, the epitome of the issue. Yeah. And we always worry that Mecole Hardman's going to be that way too. Where, like, now Mecole Hardman...
He's got better hands than John Ross, but...
Well, he has hands compared to John Ross.
That's yeah.
I'm not 100% sure that John Ross, wasn't an amputee and we just, never noticed. No, John Ross was an absolute waste of a pick. Only went 11th overall because, he was 11th overall, 10th overall, something like that. Because he was fast. Because, small boy go fast. But I don't think there's a single person who would ever argue that he was worth even a top like 200 pick.
Yeah, no.
But teams see speed. They fall in love with speed. Tyreek Hill, when John Ross was drafted, was tearing up the league, and everyone was looking for one of their own. Not that Tyreek Hill isn't still tearing up the league. He's still one of the best players at his position. Has developed as a route runner.
He's definitely one of the best
5'9".
speed threat receivers.
Yes, despite being 5'9", can out-jump a lot of cornerbacks, which is confusing and you would think biologically impossible.
And outrun them quite easily as well.
Yeah. No, Tyreek Hill is someone who is the exception, not the rule, in terms of like using his speed as a crutch.
Yeah.
But Mecole, and I told you this part too, as the year went on, he started playing better, and I kind of came to the conclusion
that was the mantra
that
of the Chiefs.
Yeah. I came to the conclusion with him that I am tired of I'm no longer gonna watch Mecole and be like, man, I wish he could do this. I'm just gonna watch him and be like, wow, I can't believe he can do that, because it's a lot more fun to watch him and be happy about what he can do instead of looking at all of his limitations.
It's easy to get tunnel visioned on, bad stuff where it's like, yeah, he looked great last week, and this week he didn't put up nearly as good of stats. It's easy to get tunnel visioned on stuff like that, and I was a victim of that. At the mid-season point, I wanted to see Steve Spagnuolo fired from the Chiefs for how bad our defense was playing. So
I never went that far with Spags.
I did.
It was a dark time. I don't think anyone blames you, but
there were many screams at my parents' house of me saying,
"Yeah,
we need to fire Spagnuolo now."
Yeah.
In
but that being
hindsight,
said,
I was stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you can't predict them all. I thought Nick Bolton was going to be a bust. So
yeah.
We've all made mistakes. But overall, for the Chiefs, let's pull this up here.
What you got there?
Chiefs at the end of the year sat at 12-5. And considering they lost 5 of like their first 7 games or 8 games, something like that. Ending in the way they did was huge. And we will never. We're going to talk briefly about the postseason.
I got you.
And then we're going to move on to the off-season preview for the AFC West.
Here we go.
So,
starting it off, the retiring of Big Ben.
We put that man in the dirt.
Considering that I don't think he expected to be here because the Chargers, the Chargers did Chargers things in the Raiders game. That screwed themselves out of getting to the postseason.
Gosh, yeah, the Chargers. We'll get into them. They are.
They're something.
Somehow, despite leaving San Diego, they are the same exact team through and through. I thought maybe the original stadium was built on like an Indian burial ground or something, but clearly the curse has followed them.
It certainly has. But yes, the retiring of Big Ben, the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs won 42-21 in the wild card. Now, I think Matt and I can both agree that the first quarter was terrifying.
Yes. I was in that stadium, and there was you could have heard a pin drop at certain points in the game. When TJ Watt, so I want to paint the full picture here before I get into like pre-game. There were a lot of Steelers fans in the crowd that day.
They're a good traveling team. They travel well,
and they went to go see their quarterback off. Like legitimately, that's not me being facetious.
It was
no
his
one thought
last
the Steelers had a chance in this.
I don't even think the Steelers thought that.
There was one guy who ripped off his shirt like 4 rows in front of me, was waving his shirt around and said, "We're just happy to be here." So, and then the first quarter goes by and it was scoreless tie. People are getting kind of antsy. The offense isn't doing stuff. Defense is playing well.
Yeah, defense
but,
played decent.
It was Big Ben.
Because we had
Noodle arm.
two turnovers in the first quarter, and we couldn't do anything with it on the offense.
Yeah. And then the second quarter happens. We're getting down, or like halfway through the second quarter, and there's a strip, and TJ Watt, because he's always by the ball, scoops and scores.
And I pulled
like
out
70
many
yards.
I pulled out many hairs on that play.
Yeah. I don't even remember who it was who fumbled. If it was a strip sack or what, but
it was Darrell Williams, I believe.
Was it Darrell?
Yeah.
The barrel.
He was still dealing with that injury.
Yeah, and so and then the Chiefs.
That reminds
woke
me.
up.
I need to mention someone here after this game, or after we cover this game. There's someone that we missed, and the young guys stepping up.
Oh yeah. Sure. Well, I think I'm mostly done with this one. We ran out of fireworks for the second time in
the
team history,
postseason.
And the second time that I've been at a game, because I went to the Texans divisional game.
Matt, maybe you shouldn't.
2 years ago.
Maybe you shouldn't go to games anymore. They
No.
run out of fireworks when you do.
No, that's a good thing. We want them to run out of fireworks. I mean, for the postseason games I've been to, I went to the Texans game with my fiance, and we watched the most insane 60 minutes of football. So I thought. And then I went to the Pittsburgh game with my mom, which was an accident because she accidentally bought tickets for the next game that we're going to talk about. And halfway there, I had to buy tickets for this game. But going into the game, if you were in the pre-stream chat, you saw one of the most incredible playoff endings in league history.
Are you talking about the Bills?
I'm talking about the 13-second game. As it will be forever.
I was going
known.
to say the 2-minute ending that we had in the pre-show here.
The 2 minutes.
The big
absolute
controversy game
chaos,
too,
where either team deserved to win, except for the defenses. The defenses did not deserve to win.
Both defenses played terrible.
Now, let's be honest. They were gassed, as any team would, playing Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes for 58 minutes.
Let's take a look at this here real quick, Matt. In the fourth quarter alone, a total of 28 points were scored by both teams. And
that was
likely mostly all in the 2-minute warning. I believe who was the commentator on that game? Was it Collinsworth?
So it was. I mean, I didn't hear them during the game, but it was Romo and Nance.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. Like they said, we've never seen 3 lead changes in less than 2 minutes in a postseason game.
That shit doesn't happen. I'm sending you an image right now.
Send it me an image. What? I don't want it.
The win probability chart from the game is the most insane thing I've seen in terms of like win probability flipping since the Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl loss years back.
Yeah.
This, I mean,
you can never trust the win probability though.
God no. But even then, the way it just flip-flops at the end 4 times.
Yeah. Insane. And then the controversy of overtime.
Yes. So, I will go ahead and codify my stance. I know you are a little bit more...
I have a different stance on it, yes.
Yeah. My stance is yes, it needs to be changed. I agree, but unless until some teams actually make an effort in terms of like getting it done, the only teams that are allowed to complain about this overtime rule are the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dallas Cowboys, because they're the only two teams that tried to change it years ago.
Yeah. Which, so, I remember something as well. When we were discussing this, when we were doing the rundown, I completely forgot to mention. So, in terms of just having a back and forth, like each team gets one offensive possession, I don't think that would really do anything. I mean, you look at the Chiefs-Bills game, for example, both defenses couldn't do anything. So it literally wouldn't have mattered. It would have just prolonged the game.
I agree in general with that sentiment, but I mean, it becoming a sudden death at that point, like, I think is just fair for everyone.
It's fair. I can agree with that. But
it sucks that your guy can't touch the field at all.
Yeah. So
but
here's my proposition.
Go ahead.
I got this from Brandon Perna. That's Good Sports on YouTube. In the postseason only, 1 quarter, 15 minutes. At the end of it, whatever the score is the final. If it's still tied, you go into another overtime. So basically, it's just 1 full extra quarter, and just let the teams play.
I mean, I'd be okay with that.
I feel like doing just 1 offensive possession isn't really enough of a change.
Yeah, I think so. An extra possession just makes it feel fairer, even though it, potentially wouldn't be. But I mean, it adds more variables for chaotic endings and stuff. Yeah. I definitely don't want to do college rules. College rules are dumb.
Yeah, no. I will say, going into the Bills game, though, I was terrified. I did not think that the Chiefs were going to win. Because I
thought whoever won this game was going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what I thought, too.
And I still think, we'll get to the championship, that whichever team won this was the best team in the league. Because I think the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs were the 2 best teams in the league. I think either of them would have beaten the Rams.
Yeah.
And either of them should have beaten the Cincinnati Bengals. But we can get into that.
Speaking of the Bengals, a little bit of a deja vu game.
Not even a little bit. A lot of it.
Almost exactly here. Like, look at this right here, okay? Recap. Both of these games. Let's take a look. Okay, 14-7, Chiefs go up. This is the Week 17 game, by the way. 14-7, Chiefs are up first quarter. 14-10 second quarter. We go 3 points the remainder of the game. So we were leading, and then we just started to fall apart. And what do you know? Notice anything shocking here?
It's not great. It's not good that we lost by this.
We literally did almost the exact same thing against the Bengals for a second time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we were 1 score each away from having the exact same score. We lost by the same margin.
Yep.
The only difference is the game-winning kick from Evan McPherson came in overtime instead of at the very end of the 4th.
I want to briefly talk about Evan McPherson. That dude has nerves of freaking steel.
Don't say nerves. You mean he has the balls?
Yeah.
Of pure iron. Nothing can waver that man.
That dude was incredible this season. And he basically proved why kickers can be drafted. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If I remember correctly.
You looking up Harrison Butker?
No.
Oh, okay.
We drafted Harrison. We picked up Harrison Butker off the Panthers practice squad, which is a pretty good deal.
Yeah. Shame you let him go, Panthers. How dare you lose Harrison Butker?
So here's an argument that a discussion that I think based on that you might be interested in having.
Okay.
Very briefly, at least. You are an NFL team.
Right.
There is a kicker coming out in the NFL draft who you are completely guaranteed to get Adam Vinatieri's career out of.
Ooh.
He has scored the most points in NFL history. Do you spend a first-round pick on him?
A first-round pick?
No, you don't.
No.
He's the highest scoring player in NFL history, and no, you don't. And that's...
I could see maybe a 4th or a 5th round pick for it. Like, maybe 4th or 5th. But first round, absolutely not.
It's insane.
Well, I was watching a little bit of the combine stuff, and I saw that there was a kicker that ran a 4.82. And I'm like, first of all, why does a kicker need to run a 4.82? Like, why is a kicker needing to run a 4.82? I don't.
Yeah,
that's unnecessary.
It's random, not needed. Fun fact though, before we transition back into our planned topics, do you know who the third highest scoring player of all time is?
Lynn Elliott.
Gary Anderson. Your boy. Your other boy. I think you just shouldn't. I just think you hate kickers in general. That's my theory. Like you're predisposed.
No, the only kicker that I despise is Justin Tucker because he is a god.
Gosh.
And because he plays for the Ravens, and I don't like the Ravens.
He single-handedly kept them in the postseason talk before. Anyway, moving on from.
Before we do that, there's one player one young player that I want to mention. You may know who.
Oh yeah.
You may know who this is.
I've probably heard of him.
This guy right here, number 1, Jerick frickin' McKinnon. What a late season performance by him.
Jerick McKinnon is 29 years old, so he doesn't really fall into the category of young guys.
He's not a young guy, but in terms of like unheard of necessarily.
Like he had some good time with
Minnesota and San Fran.
Minnesota, but he came into his own, and postseason especially, like he was a weapon, and that's why he's really high on the guys that want this to resign going into this year.
Yeah, he is. Talk about incredible postseason performance by Jerick McKinnon. He was electric. And except for the Bengals game when we decided to stop handing them the ball in the second half, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, he is a guy that I definitely want back. He adds an aspect to our offense, and as we'll get into here shortly, we have a lot of free agent running backs. I think we only have CEH.
We have a lot of free agents. Period.
Yeah. Some of them are more important than others, and we'll definitely sort that out. But Jerick McKinnon was definitely a huge part of the success we had toward the end of the year.
Yeah. He
developed into what we expected him to be all year. So,
moving into some NFL offseason, we're going to break down some Chiefs free agents that are going to be hitting the market starting on the 16th of March.
Yes.
You want to tackle the first guy?
Yeah. Tampering window starts on the 13th. We will be going live next week as well, talking about, because deals are going to start happening probably midday Monday.
Yeah,
next week.
We'll definitely be back on Wednesday.
Free agency starts earlier than it actually does because it's weird. First guy, though, up on our list is Tyrann Mathieu.
The Honey Badger.
He is the definition of a player that I have had to spend the last 2 months, month and a half, coming to terms with the fact that he's not going to be on our team anymore.
Yeah.
He is an absolute stud. He is a leader of the locker room. He appeared to have a down year, but if you really look at it, he wasn't targeted as much anymore. He did have a few tackling issues here and there through the year, but like as far as a cover guy, there's a reason that for most of the year he was the guy throwing his hands up, not the guy who was getting burnt. He's still a damn good player, and I think he's definitely worth a contract. But I don't know if the numbers work out for Kansas City.
Yeah, I agree. I like the Honey Badger. I think it would hurt us quite a bit in the cap.
Yeah, it's hard to justify. Here's the thing, though, that I don't remember who it was. It might have been like Tom Pelissero, someone like that. But they were going over all the safeties that are coming. Like, there's a lot of safeties in this market right now.
Yeah.
Jesse Bates got franchise tagged, so he's going to stick around. And the Bengals, which like they'd be insane to let him go, but even he's going to like set the market for safeties. They're looking at like 15 million, 16 million, 18 million perhaps. Just depending on safety by safety. And as Tom Pelissero, I'm going to say it was him because that's the name I'm thinking of. As he got to Tyrann Mathieu, he paused and said, well, they're pretty confident he could get at least 10 million a year, which I don't know about you, but that blew my mind hearing that information. That it was even a question that he would get less than 10. If he gets a $10 million a year contract, yeah, sign me up. Absolutely. I think he thinks he's worth like 16, 15 million. I don't think we can afford to pay him that. And if another team can, I hope he gets it. But there's a lot of murmurs that
just don't go back to the Texans, Tyrann. You don't want to do that.
God, I don't think he hates himself.
I mean, he did play for them for a bit.
Yeah. That was back when they were hopeful, though. They were good.
Yeah.
But he could potentially have a lesser market. Nate Taylor went on one of our local radio stations and talked about Tyrann briefly and gave it about a 15% chance of him coming back. So
yeah, I did. I heard that.
I'm hopeful. I want him to be back, but we have a lot of other needs, and I think he's just a casualty.
Yeah, and it's not like safety isn't something that you can kind of address in the draft too. I know it sucks to say, but
I wouldn't want a first-round safety.
No.
With like the bunch that they have coming out.
I'll take a second or third round though on a safety.
I take a second or a third, and
because that's what
maybe a veteran.
Because that's what Juan Thornhill was. He was a third rounder.
He was a second rounder.
Was he a second? Oh.
Yeah.
I don't remember my draft classes very well.
That's okay. I live and breathe the stuff, so unfortunately I do. You could say I remember it so you don't have to, but
well,
then we get canceled. So let's move on.
Steelers man?
I have a lot more I could say about Tyrann, but really at the end of the day, it's just me parroting the same thing of I really want him back, and it's been a hard month and a half of coming to terms with that he won't. So next up, a guy I know that you're extremely excited about.
Yes.
Melvin Ingram.
Give this man all the money we can afford.
And by all the money, we mean, a reasonable contract.
$5 in a
reasonable
gift card to
contract.
McDonald's.
But seriously though, Melvin Ingram was a stud last year. He when we traded for him, again, we shouldn't have had to trade for him in the first place. We should have just signed him when he came to visit. But we got him for next to nothing, and he contributed more to our pass rush than arguably Frank Clark did during the year.
Absolutely. And I mean, I believe that Melvin Ingram was one of the main reasons why the back half of the season our defense actually looked competent. Our defense actually knew what they were doing out there because you had someone like Melvin Ingram who knew how to play football. And how old is he going on this year? 32, 33?
Yeah, he's going to be 33 by the start of the season. Turns 33 in April.
So I mean, yeah, he is a bit old, but I definitely think he's at least worth a 1-year deal at minimum.
I think a 2-year deal, call it 16 million.
Yeah.
I could do that.
Yeah.
Eight a year.
He's a force.
For his services.
He's a force on the team.
Yeah.
I
mean.
Oops, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I think he is definitely a guy that we could get for cheap. And he is an asset.
Yeah.
That I hope doesn't have too big of a market, because he did show that when he's motivated and has some people around him, he can be a stud. So.
Absolutely. Want to move over to our next guy that you know my thoughts on it, so I'll let you say your thoughts on this guy.
Yeah.
Big 5'5".
Next up on our list is Frank Clark. Now, if you look at the Chiefs impending free agents, you will not see him listed anywhere. That is because his contract is not up
until next year.
However, I believe he has 2 years left.
Is it 2 years? Okay.
But the thing with Frank Clark that creates the thing is that this is the moment in the contract that we knew was coming, where 3 years into his contract we would have an out, and we needed to decide whether he's worth all that money. And to get us, like, for as much as we have paid him to get a Super Bowl, he was a huge part of getting the ring itself.
But since that
his contract up to this point has been worth it. However, you don't just keep doubling down on a bad mistake. He's getting paid $26 million this year.
Yeah.
That's a hard pill to swallow for the lack of production. Now, he was hurt for the early part, don't get me wrong, but he just hasn't proven that he's worth $26 million anymore. Now, here's an interesting thing that becomes a conversation amongst... I'm sure it's a huge deal in Chiefs Kingdom, and especially with like Brett Veach in the executive office there. Obviously, if you could, Frank Clark's upside is amazing. If you could renegotiate his number down to, like, I would keep him at $13 million. Cut his salary straight in half. Convert a lot of it into incentives, save some money, maybe some signing bonuses. But more than likely, this is going to end in a release.
Yeah. So
I would love to trade him if we could, but
if you take a
that's
look,
not happening.
Let's take a look here. Okay. 2019 Super Bowl year, he had 8 sacks with the team. 2020, he had 6 sacks. And this year, only 4.5.
Now, is that including postseason?
It is not.
Okay. So his postseason, even this last postseason,
but
was
I can take a look at his postseason for this year.
And maybe I'm just remembering it wrong, but his postseason has consistently been amazing. It was like playoff Sammy.
Yeah,
you remember playoff Sammy?
Yep. Here's his playoff stats: 2019, 5 sacks in the postseason, 3 sacks in 2020, 0 this year in the postseason.
He did have a fumble recovery for us in the postseason, looks like.
He did,
which was good. He might have been a little banged up going into this postseason as well, but he got like 4.5 sacks within like a 6-week span. if I remember correctly,
little
which
Super
was
Bowl,
good.
little Super Bowl ring there.
Little Super Bowl ring, that's cute. He also, and I'm also one of those people who a pressure to me is like 3/4 of a sack.
Yeah,
Just depending on how, like, a full-on pressure can be more valuable than a sack in some way,
which does it have?
especially when you're playing against Sam Darnold. Shots fired.
Does it have his pressure percentage on here? No, it doesn't.
Probably not. That's not really a metric that, like,
I mean, it
a
has
lot of places.
It has QB hits, which I mean, kind of, but
Yeah.
even that.
Well,
I
that's a
mean,
penalty anymore. That's just a penalty counter.
yeah, no kidding.
But here's the interesting
his
conversation.
Here's his regular season pressures. Like,
Okay.
2019, 27% of pressures, 25%, and then 29%, believe it or not, this year. So he did do better on pressures. He just couldn't get to them.
Is that percent? I feel like that's not percent.
Or that's total pressures. How many times he got to it, sorry.
So, like
got
even
inside
though
the
he
face.
played, I mean, he played in one fewer game.
This is the big stat,
he was
though.
injured.
Missed tackle percentage almost
Oof.
doubled this year from last year.
Yeah. So, like, he got more pressure, but I think at the end of the day, I don't think anyone in Chiefs Kingdom can say at $26 million
He's worth
he's
it.
worth
No.
keeping around.
I say we try and ship him off, try to take a look at some trade options if we can get him for a couple second or third rounds, Because, let's be honest, we're not going to get a first round trade value for him.
Oh, God, no. But here's the other thing. What team would want to take on his $26 million number?
Seattle.
Send them back to Seattle?
Yeah, send him back.
I mean,
no, it'll be like that.
we have picks now.
It'll be
But,
like that meme where it's like, send him to Detroit.
I need to send you this.
You sending me a meme now.
It is a meme. But I'll keep talking while I look for it.
Right.
Frank Clark, the interesting discussion with him that is going to actually be the main issue so far is it worth it to cut him now or cut him
wait.
later?
I mean,
I
think
told you a little bit about this.
It would be more beneficial to cut him later just because the dead cap goes down, but I still say we try to look for a trade if we can get one.
I mean, a trade would be incredible.
Like, if we could trade him for, like, let's say 2 third-round picks and maybe a couple fourth or something. Like, I mean, that's not great value, but it's better than nothing. It's better than cutting him and getting nothing.
So the breakdown for anyone who's not aware, the Chiefs save $12 million if they cut him now.
Yeah, here,
We can
I'll
use
pull
that
it up.
money to sign free agents. It'll help us a lot.
Frank
However,
Clark.
If we wait or we give them the post June 6th designation, we save $19 million, and we have no dead cap hit.
Okay, so
Or
here,
very minimal.
I'll pull it up here on screen. Frank Clark, yep. Dead cap now $13.6 million. If we cut him before, cut him post, we save almost $10 mil in cap.
10 mil extra?
Yeah, if you cut him post, in terms of dead cap money,
Yeah.
you'll
So
save
dead cap is $6 million.
or yeah, $6 million. Sorry.
We save $19.5 million total versus $12.7 million.
And if we trade him, and
now.
if what would be amazing is if we trade him and the other team takes his full contract, that would be perfect.
I mean, if we wanted, if I think he would have to be a restructure and trade if we trade him at all,
I agree.
because nobody wants that contract, and they know that they could just talk to him in the off season and sign him probably for cheaper because he'll still be getting money from Kansas City.
Yeah.
So I feel that cutting him, I go back and forth on it. I think there's an argument for cutting him now, but I think ultimately the extra little bit will help in the long run. So
Yeah, I can, yeah.
I mean, that extra $7 million is most of our draft class.
Yeah, basically.
So,
Our next.
now I'll do the introduction for the next free agent because I know
Yep.
you are especially in love with this guy.
Absolutely.
We talked about him a little bit earlier. Byron Pringle.
Mr. Pringles man himself. I'll let you take the floor on this one because.
Okay, yeah. Re-sign him.
Yeah,
Re-sign him. He's
yeah,
worth
yeah,
it.
yeah. I think that's most Chiefs fans.
$8 million, absolutely worth it. I mean, I don't think he would command any more than that.
Probably not.
He probably wouldn't even command all of that. You could probably get him $5 million. Pretty easy, $6 million.
Oh yeah.
And like he's been a productive player, and he's not been, so good that another team should outbid you, which is why they've kind of let him play with the market a little bit. And like we said, if he gets a big deal, go for it. Like get your bag, you've earned it. But I don't think that's going to be the situation at all.
Yeah. I mean, my thoughts. Pringle, I absolutely love the guy. He deserves it. He's worked his way up, and I definitely think at the minimum he's a solid slot receiver. And he's proven to be a decent red zone threat too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, reliable hands in the end zone. Patrick trusts him. He knows that the play is never dead until the whistle blows.
The Patrick Price knows Pringles.
He keeps it up and going. So, I think that on its own is worth a pick, or not worth a pick, but worth another contract. Next up is something I don't know how much you have to say on the issue, but
I can already tell you I'm gonna disagree.
with anything I say,
just with the overall.
okay. I would categorize as a player who stepped up this last year.
Cornerback Charvarius Ward.
He stepped up though exactly enough that, and this is why I feel bad for him, a team like Jacksonville is going to offer him like $14 million a year, and he's going to take it, and then he's going to sit there and die in Jacksonville.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, so years ago we drafted a guy named Parker Inger in the 4th round. Absolute bust, not even in the league anymore.
He was our Eli Apple.
A couple years later, we traded Parker Inger to the Cowboys for undrafted rookie Charvarius Ward here. He got some play toward the end of the year in 2018. And he was playing pretty good. We were kind of surprised with what we had. Next year, he kept it up, picked it up. We went and won a Super Bowl. Year after that, last year, or I guess if you, not including this previous year, 2 years ago, 2020 season, kind of a downhill, kind of a down one. And then kind of rocky all throughout the year. But as we got to the end of this last season, he just kept playing better and better. And I think he is going to make another team very happy.
Yeah.
He's going to make a poverty franchise happy. Places that the best case scenario, I think, for him is if he goes to San Francisco.
The Jets.
San Francisco is like the perfect spot where he can be on a winning team. He'll be able to make some money. They need some help in the cornerback room. They have some money to work with. They can offer him a fair deal. I don't think they will overpay him. But, there's always young corners, young wide receivers like him that get like the Albert Wilson deal, where they get overpaid for what they are. And then kind of are just seen as like a bad contract. So,
Yeah.
but that's my full circle of thoughts. What are your thoughts on Ward here?
Yeah, I'm of the opposite spectrum. I do not want to keep him. Just because, kind of like what you said, he's going to request a good sum of money, and I think he's too inconsistent to be given that much money. Like,
I agree.
He makes great plays, but he also has games like the Cincinnati Bengals game where he could not cover Jamar Chase to save his life.
Well, that was a tag team effort between.
It was
between Finn and Ward. Neither of them could cover him. To be fair, almost no one can cover Jamar Chase.
I mean, that's true, but still, like, it just looked like he struggled with consistency this year for me, and
yeah,
the other big knock on him, injuries. He deals with quite a few injuries. Like, just in the last 3 years that we've had him as a starter, he's had several injuries. I mean, they've been smaller injuries that only keep him out for a couple games, but still.
Yeah, it's
Injury issue is
more
dangerous. Like, injury issues are dangerous, especially at cornerback, a very valuable position. So I don't know if we would pay him the big bucks to keep him because of the injuries.
No, he's going to be he will only be on. So they said that 15% chance that Tyrann Mathieu's back. I give it like a 2% chance that Charvarius Ward is back. Not because I wouldn't welcome him being back or that the team doesn't like him, but because he is going to be exactly out of their price range.
Yeah.
And he's not a player that I'm willing to overspend.
No.
To retain.
Do you want me to introduce our next boy?
Sure. I will kick it off. Blake Bell.
Look at that beautiful face.
I love me some Blake Bell. A fun fact, Ryan, do you know in the 2021 season the 2020-2021 season who the number 1 rated blocker among tight ends was? Pass blocker.
It was obviously tight end Tim Tebow.
Close. It was actually Blake Bell. He was playing for the Cowboys. He played for us for I think just 1 year before.
Yep, Super Bowl year.
Came in. He's an incredible pass blocking tight end. Pretty good in the run as well. Has good enough hands, and is not a huge name. Because a lot of people have no idea who the hell this guy is. But he is absolutely worth coming back.
He's almost like having another offensive lineman on the team.
The only issues I can think of is that we had 4 tight ends on our roster last year, on the active roster. I know they're going to hopefully Jody comes back. We'll talk about Jody here in a minute. Hopefully Jody comes back big and strong and healthy. And they have Noah Gray, which, they have
3 more
franchise
years.
control over, team control over for the next few years that they're going to keep. And Blake might be the odd man out, if only because it's hard to justify keeping 4 tight ends on a roster. I definitely want him back, and I don't think it'll be hard to retain him. He's just a guy that the Chiefs might not view as a priority enough to get him back.
I agree. I mean, I would love to see Blake Bell back. Like you said, he's one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. He's crucial,
Such a George Kittle.
especially on the running game.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big reason as to why the whole left side was so utilized by the running lanes, because it was like having another offensive lineman out there. Like
It was. And run to the right, they're probably running inside zone.
Yeah.
They have Creed and Trey right there.
And Lucas Niang.
running in there. And then Niang did okay. Wiley, I hated that there was like no drop off between him and Wiley, which Wiley's a free agent I don't think I have listed here that we can talk about here in a minute.
And then Mike Remmers.
The other thing though with Blake Bell, if we do not re-sign him, Ryan, who's going to do QB sneaks for us?
Oh shit, you're right. Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But
oh wait, no, he does quarterback passes. I forgot. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he's
the most
passing
moment of that game.
Maybe he's passing it on to Jody Fortson. Maybe we will see a Jody Fortson quarterback sneak.
I am for it. I am here for it. Moving on though, I could talk about Blake Bell forever, but moving on along, Derek Nottie.
Nottie.
I think Chiefs fans, generally speaking, fall in 1 to 2 categories on Nottie. They either overhype him or they underhype him. He is an above-average starter, in my opinion, and I would love to keep him for relatively cheap. He's a run stuffer. He is a big boy. Put him in the middle of your line. Let him go.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's okay. Kind of like you said, I could see him maybe re-signing for cheap. He's definitely not going to get, big monies like DeMarcus Lawrence and guys like them. Definitely not going to get money like that, but he's a serviceable player. He's solid in the run lanes.
He's not a pass rusher.
Yeah.
Like he has sacks and pressures to his name, but you are signing him to shore up the middle.
He's a
at
strong
some points in his
DT.
career, teams have just not run at him because he's been so good. Now, also that's because they were running at Chris Jones, because Chris Jones could be a liability in run stops.
Yeah.
Frequently, but Chris Jones destroys the game in other ways, so you put up with that. And that's why we had like Colin Saunders and a few other people going in, and they would line up on first and second down and let Chris Jones get some air. But Derek Nottie, I think, is a name that I would welcome back, as long as it's for the right price. I want to add one more name here. It's going to be probably a very brief conversation.
Oh, Jaron Reed?
Yeah. Jaron Reed. If you have nothing else to say about Nottie, because I know he's not the sexiest name on this list.
Not too much there now.
But Jaron Reed can go. I mean, all right, that's everything I had to say about Jaron Reed.
I'll agree with that. He was kind of a did nothing.
Oh, now.
Oh, Chiefs fans' favorite scapegoat. Dirty Dan.
Dirty Dan. So,
how old is he? 34?
Something like that.
He's up there.
I am someone who, at times, when Dan Sorensen is on the back burner and is not expected to do a lot, when he has a very simple task to do, and that task is not coverage, he is a good player. He's an average player.
I'll tell you what he is. So, there's two real big things with safeties, right? You've got run support safeties and you've got coverage safeties. Dan Soren is a really good run support safety.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Coverage safety? Not really.
Yeah. And a lot of the issues that Dan Sorensen had this year, actually
Coverage.
almost all of his issues, he did get trucked a few times, which was embarrassing.
But he did have a pick six
but-
too. He did have a pick six.
Yeah, because karma's fucking weird, isn't it?
It really is.
But Dan Sorensen, as a run stuffer, is nice. He's a good run support player. That's why he's so good on special teams. The Texans game that we talked about.
Yep.
He came up with like 2 or 3 really big plays. One on 4th down, one on a fake punt. He's a guy that on special teams he's in the right place.
He also
knows
forced
his job.
He forced that fumble on the kickoff as well.
Yes, that was the other huge one. He is a player that if you keep him in a very limited role.
Yes, he is not a full-time starter.
Yes. And the Chiefs have shown a tendency to forget that. And fans have forgotten how good he is when his skill set is actually utilized. And by good, I mean, serviceable.
Yeah. Good in the sense that he is not bad.
I was going to say, he got the nickname Dirty Dan not because he's a dirty player, but because he just goes down and does the stuff that no one else
Yeah,
really
he does the dirty work. But yeah, no, there were many times of me screaming at the TV because missed tackle
Yep.
or blown coverage by Dan Sorensen.
Yeah. I think Dan Sorensen is at the top of my list of players that I don't want to see in a Chiefs uniform next year, that I will see in a Chiefs uniform next year.
See, I don't think they're gonna bring him back, if I'm honest. I think we will.
So
finally
he's
let him
32
walk.
years old.
32, okay.
He definitely shouldn't ever cover anyone.
I like how I got Chase Daniels here too because I only looked up Daniel.
Good. Shout out to him. That's if I were an NFL player, I'd want to have his career.
$10 million to sit on the bench.
Never expected to start. And when you start, you have a losing record. But you play decent, so you just get another contract.
But yeah, Dan Sorensen, I agree. I don't necessarily want to see him in a Chiefs uniform. I like him as a person.
Mm-hmm.
He struggles being a full-time starter.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't have an issue if they just used him as, a run support or a special teams guy. I wouldn't have a problem with that because that's what he is good at.
Mm-hmm.
But it's their insistency to use him as a pass coverage safety that continues to boggle my mind.
Dan Sorensen is a rotational piece who is effective when you put him in the right spot.
Yeah.
And when we forget that, we lose ourselves. Coming in at number 2 on my list of people who I don't necessarily want to see in a Chiefs uniform next year, but will.
Agreed. I agree with you on that statement.
Ben Neiman. My fiance can verify. For a long time, especially during the year we won the Super Bowl and the year after, how many times I yelled at my TV, "What is Ben Neiman doing on my field?"
Yeah.
I have been a huge critic of Ben Neiman, and I think he and Dirty Dan are almost identical. And not in terms of the position they play or their style of play necessarily, but the team trusts them deeply.
Matt just doesn't like white defensive players.
I guess, yeah. Little too rare for me. But Ben Neiman is a player that I have come to, I think, now that we don't have Hitchens, which, by the way, I don't think we mentioned this earlier.
No, we didn't.
We didn't talk about Hitchens really at all.
We can discuss him next.
Yeah. With Hitchens gone, which is completely thanks to Nick Bolton that we're we can't afford to keep you on this number. and we have a guy who can do your job.
Didn't
if
Hitchens? I believe Hitchens is gonna be highly sought after though, or at least decently sought after. He's definitely gonna get a contract.
Here's the thing though, is if he doesn't, Brett Veach has already hinted like, hey, we could re-sign him.
Yeah.
We couldn't keep him at that number, but we could easily re-sign him. And he doesn't seem like he had any bad blood when he left. That's one thing that might keep Tyron away from us. But is that Tyron might just be salty because we didn't offer him a crazy contract. But it sounded like no one's going to offer him a crazy contract at this point.
The big knock on Tyron, I think, is his ego. He's got a mouth. He likes to run his mouth.
He's a very emotional player. And that's something you frequently want in a leader. The only place that he doesn't channel that right, in my opinion, is Twitter. But also, it's Twitter. Do whatever the fuck you want. Like
he got canceled on Twitter many times.
Twitter is just to avoid any. I say that as someone who spends almost all of his time in that void. So, to some degree, I'm never too far away from.
Yeah.
But Ben Neiman overall, with Hitchens gone, I think it makes a lot of sense the Chiefs will want to bring him back. Because he was the other green dot on the team. He was the other guy with the headset. Nick Bolton did that a little bit in training camp. In the preseason, hopefully, I want him to be the green dot and start working on those skills.
Yeah.
But they need another guy.
Gay. Him or Willie Gay.
It'll probably be Bolton.
Most likely,
just because of the position he plays.
Yeah, most likely Bolton.
I'm optimistic though.
Now, is Neiman outside linebacker or inside? He's inside, isn't he?
He is. So he plays a similar spot to what Willie Gay.
Okay.
I believe he's a will linebacker. Ironically enough.
Let's see.
Anyway, if we want to talk about Hitchens very briefly,
yeah, we can mention Hitch.
More of a retrospective, I think, on his career.
I was disappointed to see him go, but
I understood.
Yeah,
we knew it was coming. He was not coming back on that number. I mean, just like Frank Clark. He
had a big shoe to fill because he was like one of the big players that we had after Derek Johnson retired.
Mm-hmm.
At first, during Hitchens' career, I was like, I'm not sold. But as he continued to learn and develop, I started to like the guy more and more, and he turned into a much more serviceable linebacker, much more than Reggie Ragland did.
I love Reggie though. Reggie never played that well for us or for any team. But I love him, the person.
Yeah, he's a good person.
I hope he has success.
But with Hitchens, I like Hitchens. He's a good leader. And I think we have a lot to owe to the success of Willie Gay and Nick Bolton this year. Goes to Anthony Hitchens for being a really good leader and mentor to them. He set a good example as what it means to be a solid linebacker. I wouldn't ever say that Anthony Hitchens is one of the top linebackers in the league, but he is definitely. I'm not going to put him at above average, but I'm not going to put him at elite. I'm going to put him right in the good category.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I think he's a above average starter that you could plug into a lot of teams. He's going to get overshadowed a bit by the fact that Bobby Wagner is a free agent now.
Yeah,
but
this is when we're going to find out on Monday that the Chiefs signed Bobby Wagner, and Matt's going to cry even more.
Yeah, I'm going to get my heart up. I want us to bring in Wagner. Deeply, I do. He's going to get money from someone.
Absolutely.
So, he's going to go to a winner, so he's not going to probably take the highest contract that he could.
Probably not.
Not.
Moving right along, do we want to talk about your boy?
Yes. Jody, I think this is going to kind of start where we, like, probably starting here, maybe right after. We're probably going to speed up a little bit on these because
they're
especially
smaller
toward the end,
names.
we're going to have less and less and less to say about them. Jody, though, I will say, was what kept me happy early in the year. I was at the game where he caught his first touchdown pass, that Chargers game. You were at the game as well there.
I was. I was also there where we had 4 turnovers and he wanted to pull my ass out.
Listen. We...
That's the thing that sucks. He got his first touchdown, but it was one of the worst offensive performances we had that game.
Last year, the beginning was just the worst thing I've seen.
It was terrible.
In a long time. Jody, though, he's a free agent. I am almost 100% certain we will at least re-sign him into a futures contract. It's going to be all about how he recovers.
Yeah.
I believe it was an Achilles.
I believe that's what it was, yes. It was a season ender, for sure.
Community college student. Played like a year at Valdosta State, which I had never heard of. And then he became a Chief. It's not listed here what his injury was. It was season ending though. He was someone who torn Achilles. He was someone who looked really good. I know that they'll bring him back for
he has a lot of promise.
At least for the practice squad.
Yeah.
No one's gonna come sign Jody away from us.
No.
But
especially not with it being his first year on an active roster and suffering an injury. Yeah, no one's gonna put more than a 1-year offer at most. You ready? You ready for
along.
The sausage replacement, Michael Burton?
I like me some Burton.
This is a player that I would like to re-sign. You know, he's a solid asset to the run lane.
Cheap, not too difficult. The only person like looking at like the, I don't know if you ever look at fullbacks as they come available, Ryan, but I do. Alex Ingold is an interesting name.
I did see that.
That's a good name to get. If we don't get.
Interesting thing is though, Ingold I see more as a utility type fullback.
Yeah, he's less of a straightforward.
I was gonna say Michael Burton fits our strengths a little bit more with
he's more
I
power
formations.
running game.
You know, running I formations and strong set and weak set formations. Burton is a lot more useful to the team than Ingold would be.
Plus, I completely agree with that.
Plus, I think Ingold's going to be... Surprisingly, I think Ingold is going to be sought after by multiple teams for a fullback.
Yeah. I agree. I enjoy I personally like the utility fullback better.
I do too.
For what we're doing,
that's part of the reason.
I think Burton's a better fit.
Like, that's part of the reason why I liked Sherman so much, was because Sherman was like the best of both worlds. Sherman,
yeah, he was a good blend.
Like, he was serviceable as a receiver. But he was tremendous on like goal line formations with the run blocking. Like, that's why Sherman was a lifelong Chief. Was because he was so good on like those red zone I formation jumbo set packages where you just send everyone at the line. And I mean, come on. Like, how could you not like a guy like this? Like, Anthony.
Oh, sure.
How could you not? Like, look at that dude. That is a specimen of a man right there.
Yeah, he is. God, rest in peace.
And then, yeah,
I miss that dude.
His final season with the Mohawk. I'm so happy that he got a Super Bowl ring. I'm so happy about that.
He's one of those players that I was thrilled that he got a ring.
Same with
then
Dustin Colquitt. I loved seeing Dustin Colquitt get it.
I do love me some Townsend. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, Goldilocks is what I call him. Okay, moving on to running backs.
Yes, a lot of running backs going places. Daryl the Barrel, someone I enjoy.
Performed pretty well.
I think he could certainly be back at the right price.
Yeah.
I could see, again, he is in that Charvarius Ward tier in my head, where Jacksonville or Detroit.
Jacksonville's not good. They got James Robinson in Jacksonville. They're not going to suck.
They also just drafted Travis Etienne.
And they also have Carlos Hyde.
And I'm telling you this, saying that Jacksonville doesn't give a fuck, and they will just throw money at random players for no reason.
No, they don't have Urban Meyer anymore. They've got a much better head coach in Doug Peterson.
But they still have the same GM. They have the same GM. They were going to hire Byron Leftwich.
Good old Trent
I like
Baalke.
Doug Peterson, but Byron Leftwich should be a head coach almost as much as Eric Bieniemy should be a head coach.
Didn't Byron Leftwich just basically say, nah, not doing it?
Yeah, he's like, I'm not working with this GM. Fire him and let me
fire him. Then we talk.
I want you to hire someone else. Like, I don't want to be the GM.
He's like you can take a homeless man on the street as the GM, and I will work for him.
But he's like, I will not work with this man. And Jacksonville's like, but we like him. And the fan base is like, no, we don't. No, not that guy. Fuck that guy.
It's just Shahid Khan putting his hands over his ears and going blah blah blah.
I was gonna say, that franchise is doomed as long as he owns.
It's a dumpster fire.
It's like, I mean, it's
Detroit of the South
in a different way. Yeah, it's more like Detroit. I was gonna say it's like how Washington's fucked until they get rid of Dan Schneider. But Dan Schneider also has a million other issues that go along with Dan Schneider being your owner.
Detroit is a better Detroit is a much better comparison. Detroit is just, as long as Martha Ford is still the owner, I'm sorry Detroit, but your team is not going to be good.
Or Houston. Houston's another one. As long as the McNair's own Houston, they aren't winning jack shit. Anyway, that's another team that could very easily just sign Darrell Williams to a random $8 million a year for 3 years, something like that. But I know Darrell's someone that Casey loves, so there's a really good chance he's back.
I like him too. I mean, he's a good running back.
Yeah. I mean, for a large stretches of the year, he played better than our first round pick. So
a shocking player in the league.
Oh my god.
This is a player that we should have talked about as a player that stepped up.
Promising young players. Derek Carr is actually 27, 28, which is surprising.
I know he's been in the league for 4 years.
But, I mean, he reminds me a lot of Spencer Ware.
I was just about to say that. He reminds me a lot of a Spencer Ware.
Where he came into the league, little bit older, was under the radar, but had just a north-south, I'm going to run you, I'm going to run through you, I'm going to run you over, and there's nothing you can do about it sort of style. He's not,
He's a power back.
He's not trying to get fancy and juke you out. He does have a little bit of a good amount of speed, surprisingly, for his size.
Well, he's also short.
I was gonna say for his size, not this way. This way,
yeah.
It's
for being a big running back. Yes,
for being a big boy, he moves quite well. But
I could see the Chiefs giving him a 1-year deal to come back. I could.
Yeah, if nothing else, keep him on the. No one's gonna sign him. He's one of those guys.
Keep him on the reserves. He deserves it with the way he performed. Jarek McKinnon.
Yeah, so this is the whole interesting thing with this group is that Jarek McKinnon's also a very interesting name that we have in our running back room. I like all of our running backs, even CEH. I am a CEH defender.
I like CEH. He just struggles with injury, but yeah, he's a good running back.
He just needs. we need to utilize the skill set that we were told that he had.
We need to
and
utilize the
him
run.
We saw him have.
We just need to utilize the running game. Period.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jarrett McKinnon, I think we kind of touched it a bit earlier. Like, we both want to see him back. Yeah, we want to see him back.
He shouldn't be too expensive.
He deserves
Showed you a lot. Like, I mean, he's a team that he's a player that like a team might be like, oh, I'll take a year of that. But he also has struggled with injury in his career. So when he's healthy, though, he's absolutely worth a look at. Here's a guy.
You ready for it?
No one knows.
I want to see, does the audience know? I mean, I know we probably don't have many people in chat, but like, take a wild guess, chat, as to who this man is. Number 41 for the Kansas City Chiefs. If you guessed James Winchester, long snapper, you would be correct.
I love Beast Winchester. Keep him forever.
He reminds me of
seriously
like,
though he's
just looking at him. He reminds me of a very stereotypical like a mafia type guy, like an Italian mafia guy.
He's specifically like, if I assume Tom Hardy's been in a mafia themed movie at some point, but like that's the vibe I get from him.
Yeah, this particular picture.
Yeah, that one screams it.
Like this one, not so much.
But James Winchester absolutely deserves. Bring him back. No one's signing long snappers away.
I was going to say long snappers are an underappreciated role.
Yeah. Do you know what happens when you don't have a good long snapper that you can rely on?
The Tennessee Titans game?
Yeah. It goes awful.
Yeah.
So re-sign James Winchester. I'm sure a deal will get done.
He's in his 30s, isn't he? I think he is.
Probably. I mean, as long as he can bend over. He's 32. As long as he can still bend over.
But yes, I agree. Re-sign James Winchester. He earned it. Like he's earned to stay.
Yeah. Marcus Kemp.
Wide receiver.
I thought wide receivers caught passes. Not let them bounce off their hand.
He caught one this year. Come on.
He did. He had a couple catches. He's a guy that every year in the offseason, during training camp, everyone's like, man, Marcus Kemp's looking really good out there. And then he gets into
regular season and just doesn't do anything.
And you ask yourself the question that I can't believe I would ever ask. Why are you getting snaps over to Demarcus Robinson sometimes?
Yeah, I'm going to say...
That's not a question I'm used to asking.
I'm going to say this about Marcus Kemp. Don't resign him, Chiefs. Just don't.
Yeah, he's a good special teamer, and that's why he'll always stick with Graham forever.
Yeah.
Right.
But in terms of wide receiver, nah.
Is Demarcus Robinson not a free agent? Why isn't he on this list?
Did you forget to add him?
I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be a free agent. We can talk about him briefly. I want to double check, make sure.
Here, while you're checking,
we signed him to another 1-year deal.
We'll talk about that here in a second while you're checking that. Alex Okafor in the meantime.
Yeah. He's old at this point.
Yeah. That's my thing. He's not a bad player, but age is gonna catch up to him.
Yeah.
And I mean, it already kind of did last season.
I think we re-signed. Demarcus Robinson is on here. I somehow missed him. I think James Winchester is back.
Oh, did we re-sign Winchester?
Because he is no longer on the list.
Awesome. Yay, James Winchester's back, boys. Let's go. I like that. I like to hear that. Good for him. Now...
We signed him to a 5-year deal.
Winchester?
Back in 2017, so he should still be good. I don't know why he was on my list in the first place.
Well, it gave us a chance to talk about him, so...
Shout out to James.
We're gonna give some long snapper recognition there.
I thought you were about to buy a James Winchester jersey there for a second.
I should.
DeAndre Baker though.
Yep. Cut him.
I like Baker.
Opposite ends of the spectrum here. Just me. Cut him.
He's a young guy. He's never been worth his draft capital. He shows flashes. I want him to stay on the team. I don't want him to see playing time yet. I think he should have played over Mike Hughes.
I was going to say, Hughes was better on special teams. He's not starting caliber.
No. But he's a guy we could sign for a minimum deal. And have just in case. I like him exactly that much. If some other team comes in and is like, "Hey, we're going to offer him an actual contract," I'm like, "All right, well, have fun." But yeah. I don't think that's an issue.
Send him back to the Giants.
Oh, they don't want it. And I don't think he wants to be there.
It's okay. The Giants will just re-sign Eli Apple.
Fun thing, though, Baker was someone I was really high on coming out of college, and he's kind of a bust. So
here's a guy who I can't even find a Kansas City Chiefs jersey on him.
Yeah, you probably have some feelings on this guy.
I know Mike Hughes like the back of my hand from the days of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Cut him. Don't like him.
Move on.
He's not ready. He's
our last guy. He's not exactly the same situation as DeAndre Baker.
There he is. That's Breland.
He's up and down, but his downs are much, 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 much more common than his ups. And I'm okay.
There he is. There's Mike Hughes.
I'm okay with us moving on.
I didn't like him in Minnesota, and I liked him even less in Kansas City. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Gosh. Well, that wraps up the free agents. We skipped over a couple.
But now we
DeMarcus Robinson, I don't think we actually ended up mentioning.
Yeah, we could talk about DeMarcus Robinson for a sec if we want to.
It's going to be brief. I'm tired of him.
Yeah, he looked decent in the Super Bowl season, but after that,
I think he's worn out his welcome in KC.
I agree.
He's been getting less and less playing time.
He's losing receiving battles to McCall Hardman. That should to Hardman and to Pringle.
Yeah. You're the number 5 guy in an offense that also has Travis Kelce, so you're the number 6 guy. It also has CEH, Jerick McKinnon, Darrell Williams that they'd probably rather throw to than you anyway, too. You're the number 10 guy now.
Yeah, you're not...
I'm pretty sure they'd throw another pass to Allegretti before they want to throw to him. So
Probably.
Allegretti has hands. I've seen it.
I'm all for big man touchdowns.
Yeah. More of those, please.
So, like Matt said, that's going to wrap up free agency for the Kansas City Chiefs. Before we jump into some other AFC West teams, we're going to briefly cover some team needs that the Chiefs have coming into this free agency period, and maybe we'll probably talk about it more when end of March comes around, when it's more around draft time. But just some positions that the Chiefs desperately need.
Edge.
The big 3 for me: edge, cornerback, receiver. Those are the big 3.
I don't think anyone disagrees. For me, in this order, it's edge. Probably edge, corner, wide receiver as well. I think wide receiver and corner are almost interchangeable.
Yeah.
I just know that our secondary is kind of getting depleted this offseason. With Charvarius, Tyron, Mike Hughes, DeAndre Baker all going.
That pretty much just leaves L'Jarius Sneed.
We're losing two edge starters, though, in Frank Clark and Melvin Ingram. I want Melvin Ingram back. He shouldn't be too expensive, but
I would love to see Ingram back as well.
I think we re-sign Melvin Ingram. We use our number 1 overall pick on a edge player who's got a lot of upside and a high floor. It's the main thing I want.
Yeah.
I would rather us get like a 7-sack guy than like a guy who has like 1 15-sack year and then a bunch of 2-sack years.
Yeah. I would love to have a Chase Young on the team.
I mean, everyone would love to have a Chase Young on their team. I'm not even setting my expectations that high. I want a Daniil Hunter.
Daniil Hunter. You're setting your standards a little too low there with Daniil Hunter. Just saying.
But beyond the big three, because I think anyone who follows the Chiefs at all knows that those are the spots that we need. The ones I have listed are safety, defensive tackle, and backup QB.
Damn right, the backup QB. We could also say running backs too, but that also depends on if we re-sign a bunch of our backups.
I think this is mostly based on the moves that we expect to happen, also, because even if Melvin Ingram gets signed, I think we still need an edge as our biggest need.
Yeah, having another edge would certainly not hurt. Corner, even if we brought back Charvarius Ward, I still think we need to address the corner position.
I've been banging on the corner drum for the last ever since the year after we drafted Marcus Peters.
I was going to say, and I mean, Marcus Peters was a decent corner, but
Marcus Peters is a damn selfish.
I was going to say, he's an amazing player, terrible human being.
It's like I have his jersey.
He is the Chiefs' version of Antonio Brown.
Of Antonio Brown? I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, I would. He negated a pick six because he spiked the football over this freaking chucked the football into the stands.
It didn't negate that.
It didn't. Oh yeah, no, it just enforced it after on the kickoff.
Yeah,
but still,
he had an attitude problem. He has always had a maturity problem. I don't think
he also get into
anywhere.
fights with Andy Reid.
Not Andy Reid. I know him and Bob Sutton got into it a lot.
Who gives
way
a
back?
Who gives a fuck about
That's
Bob Sutton?
a name I don't want to remember.
I have PTSD by Bob Sutton's name.
Yeah.
Who are some players that you could potentially see the Chiefs signing, or at least extending offers to in free agency for, like, let's say the big positions like edge, corner, receiver. I think corner. I know I'm going to sound biased, but Patrick Peterson might not be bad to bring in on a 1-year contract.
He is a bit old.
He is old,
we should get him pretty cheap.
He still performed decently with the Vikings last year. He still showed that he was a solid player.
My number one choice. I'm going to start with my number one position.
Okay.
And I'm going to kind of go over it really briefly. My number one choice as far as free agents is Von Miller.
God, if we get Von Miller, that'd be insane.
Von Miller is good.
There is something that I had watched, though, is if the Broncos sign Von Miller back, they might be interested in trading Bradley Chubb away.
Well, they can't. They have to pay Bradley Chubb next year. And I mean, they kind of traded Von Miller because they're like, oh, we have Bradley Chubb. So that I feel like that'd be kind of like a 180. Bradley Chubb's had injuries, though. I don't know how long they expect him to be around.
Now, I know you want to see Tyler Lockett in a Chiefs uniform. But I don't know. Is Mike Evans, is he entering free agency?
He is not.
Evans. I was thinking of Godwin. I was thinking of Chris Godwin, but he was franchise tagged.
Godwin got the tag.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if Godwin didn't get the tag, Chiefs absolutely should go for Godwin.
Godwin would be amazing if we could have, if he was available. I don't think I would ever consider him a possibility. I also don't think Von Miller's really a possibility because I think we'd be his third choice.
How about Calvin Ridley? Oh wait.
Ooh, sore spot. That was a trade that people wanted for a bit. Was Frank Clark, Calvin Ridley in a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, Frank Clark in a second for Calvin Ridley.
If only he didn't sports bet.
Yeah.
While being an active player in the league.
He was actually not active.
No, but he's still technically under the Shield's wrath.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're going to make an example out of him. That's why it's a year.
Yep.
So edge players, Von Miller's what I want. Von Miller's not what we're getting. Chandler Jones, I'd be cool with. He's been consistent. He's damn old. I do not want Jadeveon Clowney.
Is Chandler Jones, is that the Cardinals' outside edge?
Yes.
Okay.
Randy Gregory is also a free agent. He's pretty good. I'd be okay with that. That's edge. I think
corner, we absolutely need to sign Eli Apple. Just saying.
Did you say Eli Apple?
Yeah.
All right, in the podcast we're done. Jokes aside, though, J.C. Jackson is going to face free agency.
That would be if we could get J.C. Jackson. That would be insane.
J.C. Jackson, in my head, is worth every penny.
Oh yeah, he's one of the best in the league right now.
Carlton Davis is another person coming available. Dude, he'll ask for a lot of money.
If we could get Carlton Davis, imagine the beef between him and Hill.
I would love Carlton Davis on the team. Him and Tyreek would fight.
They would just peace sign each other.
But, I mean, those two I think are big. Edge. That was the guy actually I was thinking of. I couldn't find him on this list. I would be perfectly fine if we brought back Emmanuel Ogbah.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, imagine. Okay, picture this. We get Justin Houston back from the Colts.
That's something that I think is very doable. Is he a free agent, though?
No, he's still on the team, I believe. Let me check, actually. Let me check the Colts. Colt boy, where you at? Colts.
While you look at that, I think for me, for wide receiver, I'd be cool with Allen Robinson, absolutely. He's had kind of a down year, so he might come a little bit cheaper than expected. He'd also probably want to do a shorter term deal. Odell, I'm obviously interested in, but maybe. The last name I want to throw out, because I'm mostly curious how you think about him.
Yeah.
Juju.
I've gone back and forth on Juju. I can't deny he has talent.
Think of the TikToks.
I don't know if I would want his ego on the team.
Think of the TikToks between him and Jackson Mahomes.
Oh god. Absolutely not.
Kind of going down my list though. Safety, obviously I want Tyron.
Sorry.
We need
Justin Houston's with the Ravens, not the Colts. Sorry.
Oh yeah, he is. He's a Raven right now. I wouldn't mind him coming.
I'm taking a look to see what his cap hit is, and if he has a multi-year deal.
I wouldn't mind Marcus Williams as far as safeties. Jesse Bates would have been my number one choice if he made it, but we also wouldn't have been able to afford him.
No.
Tyron's definitely high up there. I mean, a lot of the safeties that are out are like young guys who are going to get paid. And it's not a position that we can really afford to. So I think it's going to be a draft a player or get a cheap veteran in like the second or third phase of free agency. So defensive tackle, we just need kind of a run stuffer. No names really jumped out at me. I assume we'll just pick up some veteran and probably draft some guy late. And then backup QB, just someone with a pulse.
Yeah, basically. All right. So, we could technically sign Justin Houston. He is entering free agency.
He's a free agent?
Yep. 33 years old this year.
I would be completely welcome to him coming back, being a defensive end. My favorite parts of Justin Houston's time were all those moments where he wasn't in pass coverage, Bob Sutton. I was a proponent for keeping him back when we shifted the defense.
Yeah.
And converting him to a defensive end. Obviously, that was not for the number that he was under. Brett Veach wasn't interested in that. I don't think anyone was interested in that.
He's one of the best linebackers out there right now. Like, well, not out there, but in terms of his career stats, he's one of the better ones.
And as an edge guy, I want him to come back. He's one of the best players, defensive players in our team's history.
The good news is he's an unrestricted free agent, so that's good.
That's good. They can't do any special tenders to him.
Nope.
Yeah, I would say I'd be down for a reunion there.
That'd be fun. Maybe we could get him a ring.
Yeah, just a year or two. Get him a ring, come home for a bit.
Receivers, that's a tough one. Let's see, receivers.
Yeah. If you're ready, if we want to go ahead and do a light little, we'll talk about the names leaving.
Some of the other AFC West opponents.
Yep, and then we'll probably wrap up there.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Just some interesting people to talk about for the Raiders. Marcus Mariota, I think is
sign him. We need him.
He's not for us, but I think just as a talking point, is a very interesting free agent.
I mean, is it though?
A lot of people in Las Vegas wanted him to take the starting job.
I wouldn't.
Over Derek Carr, the way Derek Carr was playing the year that they wanted that, maybe.
I was gonna say, if you're comparing last year, no. Derek Carr.
Derek Carr, absolutely, last year. Here's assuming that Derek Carr keeps it up.
This is true.
Under Josh McDaniel. The next thing with Marcus Mariota is that there's a lot of teams like the Steelers that above average quarterback play would make the playoffs.
Yeah, I could definitely see the Steelers making a move.
I mean, the Saints are probably going to start Ian Book next year, so because they don't have any money.
But Jameis Winston.
Yeah. No, but I could see. I think the Steelers are a good fit for any of these. I don't think they're going to. I think if I had to guess, the Steelers are going to draft Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett with their first round pick. Pretty much who's ever available. They might make a trade, move up a little bit if they're worried about it, but
yeah,
it's going to be one of those two guys. They're going to get like a Jameis Winston or a Marcus Mariota, and like have Malik Willis or him sit a little bit, and then whenever famous Jameis turns into infamous Jameis. Or Marcus Mariota looks like he did in Tennessee.
We let the QB take over. We don't talk about those years in Tennessee.
Damn. Just damn. Hey, no. We are grateful to Marcus Mariota forever, and here's why.
Playoffs.
Alex Smith is having an MVP-like season. We might not switch to Patrick Mahomes next year if he wins that game. but we lost in such an embarrassing fashion, and the offense was heavily to blame. That
I mean, I'm still an Alex Smith person. I loved Alex Smith.
I am too. Absolutely, I love Alex Smith. I think he's gonna get whatever job in the broadcast booth.
I think he could probably be a coach too.
Absolutely. Andy Reid already told him, like, if you ever want to be a QB coach, come to me.
Just not this year because Matt Nagy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm cool with that signing.
But yeah, Casey Hayward, next player up for the Raiders. Interesting. They're letting Casey Hayward walk, huh?
Yeah. Casey Hayward's a bit older. He's not the corner he used to be. Class got canceled tomorrow, by the way. Unrelated.
Yeah, nice.
But Casey Hayward is a player who is not what he used to be, but he could still come in, be more productive than like a Rashad Breeland or one of those like older guys who just you plug in. Casey Hayward instantly makes any secondary he's in better. I don't know how well he fits with us per se, but I mean I wouldn't hate it. I mean he's more of his own guy I think at this point in his career.
Yeah.
I might be talking out of my ass right now, but
KJ Wright as well for the Raiders.
KJ Wright, that's my guy.
He was pretty good
from Seattle. I love KJ Wright, but he is old. He did not play so hot this last year.
Yeah. Bit of a down year for him for sure.
He's in one of those people in the conversation of is he on a team next year? And that makes me really sad to say.
I mean, I definitely think like a team that's desperate would probably sign KJ Wright. A player that actually I think the Chiefs could benefit from signing, at least to like a maybe 1 year deal, Desmond Trufant, who is also leaving the Raiders. I've always liked Desmond Trufant. I always have. He's not necessarily the best safety in the league, but
no.
he's okay.
So he's like a cornerback that was like a kind of has been like converted into like that hybrid role.
Yeah.
He's more of a cover guy.
Which
he's gotten
Chiefs,
worse in coverage.
Chiefs definitely need a coverage guy for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's what the way their defense is structured.
I mean,
and
I
assume with Tyrann Mathieu, I'm calling it Tyrann Mathieu's gone.
Yeah.
With Tyrann Mathieu gone, he is a guy who I think ends up being
a Raider.
I mean, he's a good coverage guy. If they don't swap their system, then we need another hybrid guy. Or more of a run stuffer is what we're missing.
Oh, so Dan Sorensen.
Unfortunately. I just don't want Dan Sorensen. Dan Sorensen can be on the team. I don't want Dan Sorensen to be a starter on anything but special team.
Yeah.
Please.
And then, of course, your favorite offensive lineman of all time, Richie Incog fuck you.
What a dick. He's good at what he does, but what a dick. He's 39 years old.
He is such an asshole.
Like, if he retired any day...
He was a Steeler, wasn't he, for a long time?
He was a Dolphin.
Dolphin, that's right.
And then he also played in Buffalo. I think he
played for the Steelers at least 1 year. Because I remember seeing him on a Steelers... Actually, let me look this up so I don't look like an absolute
He never
idiot.
did. He played for the Rams for a bit, I didn't know.
Richie Incognito. Yeah, no, he's a piece of shit.
He played for the Bills.
Why do I remember seeing him on the Steelers? I swear I saw him on a Steelers uniform. Oh, interesting news. I just saw this not that long ago. Alejandro Villanueva retired.
I did see that. The number one comment on the post that I saw was from a Ravens fan who said, "I thought he retired this previous year." Essentially saying like, "Hey," because he played like ass.
Yeah, no, he fell off a cliff.
And I feel bad for him. He's a player that was
he was a good lineman. But
and
anyway,
I wanted us to sign him.
Anyways, Jonathan Hankins is up next for the Raiders.
Jonathan Hankins, defensive tackle, if I remember right. Let me pull him up. Yeah, he's a defensive tackle. I mean, just looking at his raw numbers, does okay. I mean, he's 29. He's younger than I thought he was. I don't think he's ever really lived up to his expectations. But, like, I mean, he's more of a run stopper guy.
Yeah.
He could fit, for sure. Weighs 340, so more of like a nose tackle.
Yeah.
Like a
big guy.
Right. Listen, I don't know. I've always been one of those people who are like, hey, throw a couple nose tackles in a 4-3, call it a day.
And then you're the biggest name leaving the Raiders. Look at this dude.
Oh boy.
Alec Ingold, the fullback.
I love him.
He's good. This freaking
bro.
He looks like a knockoff Elon Musk.
No, he looks like Elon Musk during that episode of the Joe Rogan podcast where he got high, but like just like instantly after it kicked in, and that's it. Just caught in that moment.
But yeah, no, definitely one of the best fullbacks in the league right now.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but
and
like
that pains me because coming from a Chiefs fan, we have been burned by Alec Ingold many times in the past,
and it drives me nuts.
It drives me insane.
Just once, I want to have someone like him in our spot. Like I said, I love Michael Burton, and he's better for what we do. But like, if we don't re-sign Michael Burton for some reason, I hope it's because we signed Alec Ingold.
Yeah, or Kyle Juszczyk from the 49ers. I'd be okay with Juszczyk as well. I don't think he's a free agent, but I'm just saying, like, I would love to have Kyle Juszczyk as well.
I was about to check. I was like, that guy, Kyle Juszczyk, is someone that Andy Reid would get very creative with if he had him on his roster.
Let me see. Is he entering free agency?
I doubt it.
Picture.
I mean, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm not letting him anywhere. Free agency picture.
Yeah.
There's him signing a new contract.
In
the third row.
Internet is crapping itself. It's 2018. News. Let me go in here. I'll have better luck on here. 49ers.
He signed a 5-year deal with them in... Okay, so his contract's not up till 2025.
Ah, damn.
So 4 years of Ingold and then right into Kyle Juszczyk. Perfect.
How old will he be at that point?
I don't care. I want him.
He's
30 right now.
Yeah. So
he'll be 34.
I mean, Sherman played until he was 38 with us, so at least I think he did. Wait, how old is? Hang on.
Sherman retired. He was 32. I was going to say I thought he was only 32. Sherman retired a little young.
I thought he was really
older
than that.
He plays a position that
is very physical.
I mean, it's a lot of sudden, like, contact in that position. Not often, but
it's like offensive linemen. You have a younger retirement age as an O lineman, and same for defensive linemen too. Moving on to the Chargers. This one's pretty simple.
I literally didn't even write them down because I looked at the list and I'm like, these fuckers are so old.
They're ancient.
We'll go ahead and pull up an actual list because
I
need to go back in and fill it out. But
we could give some Chargers fans some hope. We could talk about the Mike Williams deal.
Mike Williams deal was huge. That was going to be their biggest one, and then I erased that, and then I looked at the other names, and I was like, eh. I mean, you got Chris. So we got Chris Harris Jr. at age 33. Not what he used to be.
No.
Michael Schofield. He's okay. He's old. Jared Cook, productive for how old he is. Linval Joseph, productive for how old he is.
Jared Cook is still playing?
Yeah. I know, right?
I didn't even know that guy was still alive.
But yeah, he's 35. Linval Joseph's 34.
He was the Packers guy that caught that amazing catch in the playoffs against the Cowboys, right? Jared Cook?
Jared Cook has played for, I think, every team on a one-year deal.
Pretty much. He's the definition of a journeyman.
He played for the Titans, Rams, Packers, Raiders, Saints, Chargers.
Yeah, a good chunk of teams.
And every time he's been productive everywhere he goes. Linval Joseph is above average D tackle, but he's 34.
Yeah, old. Only probably got a couple years left.
And then, like, beyond that, it's just people like Jalen Guyton.
Small name guys.
Like, whoa. Chase Daniel?
Yeah, he's on the Chargers, yeah.
I didn't know that. Well, he's going to go get a contract. I want to look at his contract history.
This is a shit ton of money from the Chiefs.
So he played for Washington.
Yep.
And then the Saints.
Yep.
And then the Saints.
Yep.
And then the Saints.
Yep.
And then the Saints. And then the Saints. And then the Saints. And then the Saints. And the Saints. And the Chiefs.
He had a long
3 years.
He had a long career with the Saints.
He signed so it's funny though, because you look at it, he signed a 1-year deal, they renegotiated it, and then they signed him to a 3. They renegotiated it to a 3-year deal.
Yep.
They terminated that. They set him up with another 3-year deal that they then terminated to replace with a 1-year deal that they renegotiated into a 3-year deal that they let expire, and then they signed him to one more new deal. And then the Chiefs had him for a few years.
And he made almost like $20 million in that period of time with the Kansas City Chiefs to sit on the sideline as a number 3, not even a number 2, a number 3 quarterback.
I'm say, I mean, look at in just base salary. So in total, he made $34 million.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Remember when we had Nick Foles for a year as a backup?
Yeah, and then he went and won the Super Bowl.
The following year.
You're welcome. Andy Reid, he was going to retire, and then Andy Reid talked him out of it.
Yeah.
And said, just come play with us.
And now he's suffering in Chicago.
Poor guy.
Big Dick Nick.
I think that mostly wraps up the Chargers, though.
The biggest need for the Chargers?
Just
get a
defense.
You guys haven't had a defense in years. It's time to get one.
They could probably use...
kind of similar to the Chiefs. Edge, corner, safety really is what they need.
They could use, like, probably one more wide receiver. Just a third guy. But, like, they've got a decent group.
Get a Keenan Allen the second.
Who's their number 3 wide receiver? I don't remember.
He's
pretty good.
I don't remember, but he played well against the Chiefs on that Thursday night game. I don't remember his name, though.
Yeah. They've got Joshua Palmer.
Was it Palmer?
They also drafted... they have Jalen Guyton, which... Meh. Andre Roberts, he's okay. Maurice French is I think he was a rookie last year, so... We'll see.
Moving on to my second most hated team in the NFL.
It'll always be the Raiders for me. I'll never...
No, the Raiders are absolutely my number 1. I'm just saying, the Broncos are my number 2. Like, that's always the funny thing when you're talking about AFC West rivalries. It's like Chargers, Chiefs, absolute hatred. Broncos, Raiders, absolute hatred. Chargers, Raiders, hatred. Chargers and Broncos, Chargers and Chiefs,
Yeah, it's like Chargers and Chiefs aren't really a rivalry. Like
we will all agree that the Raiders are the worst team in the AFC West.
Everyone hates the Raiders.
Like
it's universal.
Every single person, whether you're a Broncos fan, a Chargers fan, a Chiefs fan, will all agree that the Raiders are the worst team.
Yeah. Going over the Broncos, though, they've got a lot of secondary guys disappearing.
Yeah.
Kyle Fuller, Bryce Callahan, neither of them had a great year, but they both, they're both walking.
Kareem Jackson's a
they're both-
pretty decent sized name there.
Yeah, Kareem Jackson's good.
Melvin
He's
Melvin Gordon. I can't help but feel that Melvin Gordon has kind of regressed in his career.
I mean, yeah, he's a running back
Since
on a second
leaving
contract.
since leaving where did he play before? It was the Chargers, wasn't it?
Chargers, yeah.
I mean, he was good with the Chargers, and he was good for his first couple seasons in Denver. This year, though, it was a big step back for him.
And like Melvin Gordon's not getting another contract from the Broncos.
No, and plus they've got that young rookie that they have, Javonte Williams, who
is a stud.
looked really good.
Yeah.
Bob-
Honestly, the Broncos should have beat us the second time we played them if they just fed Williams more.
Because our offense was not playing well.
New.
Bob Macy or Massey, Massey. do you
He is a right tackle. Bobby Massey.
Sign him. He can replace Lucas Niang.
No, I'm okay.
I'm just kidding. Lucas Niang, he's not a bad player.
Niang's fine.
He's average. I think he still needs a couple seasons to really ramp up, but we'll see. And then pour
Teddy.
one out for my boy Teddy B.
I'm gonna let you have the floor on this for a bit because you have a longer personal history with Teddy than I.
Teddy B. I love Teddy Bridgewater. I've always liked Teddy Bridgewater. My second favorite team is the Vikings. Teddy Bridgewater, when he was drafted by the Vikings, was looking like the franchise quarterback for the next 20 years. Like, he was leading their team to great successes. And then the injury. The injury plague took him by storm, and then what we all thought was the career ender. And after that career-ending injury, I didn't think we would ever see Teddy Bridgewater be a starting quarterback ever again. And then, he went through his rehab. He really was the Alex Smith before Alex Smith. Because, he signed with the Saints and, played as a backup. I can respect that. Your first year back from a major injury, I don't expect you to be a starter right away. And when Breeze went down with the injury, Bridgewater played really good. Which is why I was kind of shocked that the Saints didn't keep him, because they had him on a 2-year deal. I was expecting them to keep him for that second year. But nope, they traded him to Carolina, and it was safe to say that Teddy that we saw in the Saints was not the Teddy we saw in Carolina. It was rough.
No.
He had no offensive line to help him, and they basically got him to a 1-year rental, and then they shipped him off for an equally as bad quarterback in Sam Darnold.
Oof.
Yeah, Teddy, I was hoping to see his career maybe resurrected in Denver, as much as I didn't want to see him succeed in Denver, because screw the Broncos and all, but I always have a soft spot for Teddy. I definitely think that he's probably going to get at least a contract as a backup somewhere, so I don't think he's going to just be left out to dry.
And honestly, with how devoid of talent quarterback is right now, in terms of, like, teams looking for it,
the Seahawks might be able to sign him. I know you probably wouldn't like that, but
I mean,
it would be an
it's better
upgrade.
than True Lock
And Geno Smith.
probably combined.
And I mean, you could also bring him into, an organization like Detroit. Like, get rid of Jared Goff. And
They can't afford to do that.
Yeah, because he signed. Man, his contract just looked worse and worse.
Like, as a Minnesota fan, you have to just be happy to know that the Lions are not making any serious progress for like 2 more years.
No, but it as an NFC North fan, Vikings, Packers, hatred, bitter hatred.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny because one of my favorite sports YouTubers is a Packers fan.
Yeah.
But then there's Chicago. They're like the redheaded stepchild. You don't really acknowledge them. They're just kind of there. And then this is gonna get me canceled, but Detroit is essentially they're the special needs sibling. Like you can't feel bad for them. You really just can't. Like you're just like, hey, we won a game.
I feel bad for the players.
Hey, you did it.
I feel bad for the fans.
It's when they win a game, it's like you can't even be sad or disappointed in them anymore. It's just like, woohoo, you won a game, good for you, you did it. Like that's how low their standards have gotten.
Can I tell you an anecdote
Sure.
that happened the other day? Literally, what day is it right now?
It is a Wednesday.
It was on Monday of this week.
Okay.
I'm at work.
Yeah.
And I'm walking around picking up dishes, doing my job. And I walk past this table. And I take a look at the table. And I go over to my manager and I'm like, hey, don't we have a duty to step in when, there's like child abuse or something happening?
Yeah.
And they're like, absolutely. What's going on? I'm like, well, table 61, there's a young boy, probably 4 years old. And the parents, it's his birthday, and he opened up a Detroit Lions picture book showing the roster. And
I was legitimately worried about where you were going with this story.
And I said, we have to do something about this. That poor kid. I wish I were making this up, but this was literally Monday. And my manager was like just as equally worried as you were going into it. But it's the definition of a poverty franchise. You are going to be sad if you're a Detroit fan.
Yeah.
You have been sad, and you will be sad.
Like, I'm sorry. You know how the Browns are called the Factory of Sadness?
Mm-hmm.
If the Browns are the Factory of Sadness, the Lions are the inventors of sadness.
Listen.
They have been
the Lions.
They have been irrelevant
because
since their
of where they
creation.
play, and who owns them. They are the assembly line of sadness.
They are the Ford Factory of Sadness. The
Built Ford tough, eh?
gosh, those. Oh man, those Lions fans, man. Like, and believe me, as a Vikings fan, when we lost to Detroit last year, I wasn't even mad. I was just watching that game and I was just like, wow, this is how far the Vikings have fallen. Got it. Great. Love it. Like, it wasn't even anger or anything. It was just sheer disappointment. It was just like, I've gotten past the point of screaming at the TV. I'm just sitting in my chair just being disappointed in this. And I was just like, congratulations to the Lions. You played well. You fought hard. But it just sucked.
Yeah.
And then there were many lulls when they tied the Steelers.
One of my good friends is a Steelers fan. I had a fun time that week.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I think that a little over 3 hours. I think that's everything we have for today.
Yeah. I believe so. Do you have
Unless there's anything else you can think of that you want to go over real quick?
Let's double check Shefty. See if there's any new, any late minute news that Schefter's got for us.
Tom Brady has come out of retirement.
Oh god! Oh no!
No, I'm kidding. No, Shefty's good.
Ooh, interesting. Texans are officially releasing cornerback Terrence Mitchell.
I remember that name.
Interesting. Wasn't Terrence Mitchell the guy from the Steelers? No, that was Mike Mitchell.
Yeah, no, Terrence Mitchell played with us.
What? Okay, that's where that name is familiar. Okay.
He was on our team for a while.
Oh, interesting.
He's been in the league a lot longer than I thought he was.
Yeah.
He was on our team for a few years. Yeah, a couple of years.
Interesting.
He played pretty poorly. We let him go to the Browns. He played poorly there. He went to the Texans, was somehow one of their better defensive players, which says more about,
So,
the Texans roster.
there's not really any interesting news other than I just want to say I actually knew a player that's currently in the NFL on the Arizona Cardinals defense.
Oh, yeah?
Little known safety out of Clemson. Can you take a guess?
Hang on.
Last name is
Buda Baker?
No, not Buda Baker. No.
I don't know Arizona that well right now.
Mr. Isaiah Simmons.
Oh, damn.
I went to high
That is a
school.
big name.
I went to high school with Isaiah Simmons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you look up Isaiah Simmons, Isaiah Simmons High School. So I attended Olathe North High School, right?
I did not know that he went to Olathe North. How did I not know that?
He was born in Omaha. But take a look right here. Olathe North. Played for
So it
Olathe
sounds
North,
Wikipedia
baby.
page and everything.
He lived in Lenexa, Kansas. So, I know an NFL player. Woo!
Yay. God, he's a damn good player, too.
Yeah, they just the freaking they don't know how to utilize him
Yeah.
because they're using him
also-
as a linebacker, but he's more of a hybrid safety. Is where his best performance was at Clemson.
I was going to say, he is a size-wise, he's more of like a Tyrann Matthew. Probably a little bit less in the coverage part of it that Tyrann would participate in, but definitely heavier. But they also had him put on some weight to make try to go more linebacker. I think he's better. I prefer him in that safety spot, but
that's where he has the most experience playing.
If you're telling me that I don't know as much as Cliff Kingsbury, I'm going to be sad, but I get it. I'm not a Cliff fan. I don't know about you.
He's okay. That's all I can really say about Cliff Kingsbury. He's okay. So yeah, anything else that you wanna say?
No, I think that's all I have today. Next week we're going to talk first start of free agency.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got free agency coming up next week. Sure to be quite a bit of information.
I'm sure more trades are going to happen.
Oh, for sure.
Nothing as big as Russ, but
we got some fun stuff planned for potential future episodes as well.
Yeah, we have quite a few topics coming up, so
I'm looking forward. Do you mind if I share one of them?
Sure.
One of the things that we had possibly mentioned is how we would change the Madden franchise.
That's going to be a fun one.
That'll be a fun one. Maybe we'll get maybe we could steal Reed from the KIGP podcast for that episode.
I'm sure he would.
I'm sure he's got some choice opinions on a Madden.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to raid our boys over at KIGP?
Yeah.
All right.
Might as well.
Let's go raid.
All right. Thanks for tuning in.
Let's go raid. I don't have an end screen at the moment, so we're gonna just chill for just a second. Raid.
Hang on. This.
KIGP. You ready to raid, boy? Let's go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Raid.